Could everyone get seated? We are still lacking a couple of parties so that we can start. So please insert your cards into the microphone. Okay, we have a quorum, so good morning everyone. First we have an announcement, housekeeping announcement. So Secretary, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning everyone. The working program in Committee 2 has changed with the agenda item 35.3 onto TWABAS that has been moved to be discussed today, immediately after agenda item 31 on demand reduction to combat illegal trade and before item 41 on CITES Big Cats Task Force. We would like to remind participants that the party seats, including the second row of seats, are reserved for parties only. Observers are not allowed to sit in the section allocated for parties. Party delegates who need extra seats are only allowed to sit on other party seats with the permission of that party concerned. If that party is not present at all and you are not able to ask for permission, please make sure that you put the nameplates down so that there is no misunderstanding about which party you represent. There will be a fire drill tomorrow early morning before the regional meetings. You will need to evacuate if you happen to be in the venue and hear the alarm, and probably there will also be a public announcement as part of the fire drill. And you might have seen earlier in the morning, there's a notification about the working groups happening today. Working group on Boswellia will meet directly after this morning session at 12 or 12:15 in Blackstock. And the working group on Paul Brasilia Ekinata will meet from 5:15 in Blackstock. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Secretariat. I also have some things that I would want to be known. I allowed several parties to join the working group on Paul Brasilia because there appears to have been some confusion. So I allowed Argentina, Bolivia, Chile, Costa Rica, Guatemala, Honduras, Panama, and Uruguay to join that working group. Then you may have seen we have several summary records that are ready to be looked at. I will do that first thing in the afternoon, so at 2 o'clock. when we start the session, I will look at summary records 1 to 4 as published on the website. So please have a look at them so that we can adopt them. And we also have one in-session document, so one ComDoc, the one on fungi from the drafting group on fungi, which is available. I will also have a look at this early in the afternoon, so after the midday. And then in relation to reactions when a vote has been passed, I would kindly ask parties not to applaud, because there is always another side that has not prevailed. So please be respectful to the ones who do not get the majority, and do not applaud and celebrate. You can do that afterwards outside of the room, no problems, but I would kindly ask you to respect that. Okay? You said that. And maybe a clarification. We have a rule that the media are allowed to film in the first 10 minutes of the meeting. So media are allowed to film the proceedings during the 10 first minutes of the meeting, and then they have to go back to their media seats so that all parties are aware of this, that at the beginning it is allowed for media to take pictures and to film. Okay, that said, we go back now to CoP20, Proposal 29. We had 2 proposals that were submitted. So we had the first one from a range of parties, and then New Zealand made an amendment. So we had then 2 parallel proposals to look at. We have had quite some discussions, but couldn't finish that. So before we start to continue the discussion, I have already asked the technicians to put up the parties that were on the list to take the floor. So you will see that your microphone is blinking, so you can be ready to make your interventions. But before that, I would like to give the floor to New Zealand. They have asked me to give them the floor early on. So New Zealand, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. New Zealand reiterates that good management in this case has led to healthy populations of school sharks with sustainable harvest, and this should be recognised. We believe that a split listing could work in this particular situation. However, given the lack of support for this amendment and in the interests of progressing the meeting, we will withdraw our amendment. And again, we would like to thank Brazil for the 18 months implementation delay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, New Zealand, and I thank you for your cooperation, which means we will only be talking now about the original proposal as amended by Brazil with an 18-month delay of implementation. So I now give the floor to Panama. Panama, you have the floor.
Gracias, señor presidente. Panamá, como coproponente, deseamos resaltar el hecho que Galeorinus galeus, Mustelus mustelus, Mustelus schmidti, estas presentan volúmenes significativos en el comercio internacional de carne y aletas, lo que ha resultado en que todos estén en peligro crítico de extinción. Límites sostenibles del comercio no solo previenen descensos adicionales, sino que también llenaría un preocupante vacío regulatorio en el manejo del comercio global de carne de tiburón, que quizás tiene mayor valor que el comercio global de aletas. Y bueno, en ese sentido, instamos a todas las partes a que continuemos el apoyo de la propuesta original de Brasil y agradecemos a Nueva Zelanda por su decisión. Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you very much, Panama. Honduras, you have the floor.
Gracias, señor presidente. Como Honduras apoyamos la propuesta de Brasil con la implementación de 18 meses. Gracias.
Thank you very much. Samoa.
Thank you, Chair. Samoa also supports the proposal by Brazil with the amendments. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we don't need that. We don't need many more parties, so I will close the list now. So no more other interventions. I have Fiji.
Thank you, Chair. Fiji joins others in supporting Brazil with its proposal in its entirety, and also welcomes the comments on the amendments for the 18-month delay. We also would like to thank New Zealand for the clarification this morning. It is our understanding that the proposal now focuses on Brazil's proposal with a 18-month delayed implementation. With this being said, Fiji supports this amendment, and we look forward to the next steps. Thank you.
Thank you. Burundi.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Le Burundi intervient pour soutenir la proposition telle qu'amendée par le Brésil pour les espèces sous analyse. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you. Dominican Republic.
Gracias, señor presidente. República Dominicana, alineada con su estrategia de conservación marina, apoya la propuesta 29 de Brasil con la extensión planteada. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. Dominican Republic.
No, no fue Dominica, yo me metí. Fue Dominica que dijo. No, República Dominicana. Oh.
Sorry about that.
Sorry. Creo que anteriormente dijo República Dominicana o me confundí, dijo Dominica, no lo sé. Discúlpeme, presidente. Si fue así, me disculpo.
No, it was entirely my fault. I wasn't awake yet. So, Kazakhstan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kazakhstan would like to state that we fully support proposal submitted by Brazil.
Thank you. Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'm taking the floor to thank New Zealand for this cooperative approach and for withdrawing their proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brazil. And as the last speaker, Benin.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Le Bénin soutient également cette proposition telle qu'amendée par le Brésil.
Thank you, Benin. Really the last one, India, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. India supports this proposal 29 for Brazil and others.
Thank you very much. So now I would open the floor to NGOs and IGOs. You have the floor. Now I have FAO.
Thank you, Chair. The FAO expert panel reviewed Proposal 29 and concluded that, based on the best available scientific data, the proposal does not meet the criteria for Appendix 2 listing. While Galeor highness galeos is depleted in some regions, the global extent of decline does not exceed the CITES threshold for a low to medium productivity species, and abundance is increasing in some areas. From Mustela schmidti, recent trend shows stabilization and some recovery. For Mustela musellus, data are incomplete, and trends are highly variable across regions, with some populations showing increases. The expert panel noted that Proposal 29 relies heavily on the findings and methodology of IUCN Red List assessments, mistakenly using historical rates of decline in future projections, rates that do not represent current conditions and stock status, especially when rebuilding plans are having a positive impact on shark abundance. The expert panel emphasized the importance of considering recent data and the current management context in line with CITES criteria. Existing management measures in key regions, including quotas, closed areas, and bycatch limits, are contributing to stock recoveries. There was concern that listing such a large subset of globally distributed Mustellas under lookalike provisions would create a significant administrative burden and could negatively impact sustainable fisheries. Additionally, the expert panel noted that most products of the proposed species were targeted for domestic consumption and not international trade. With trade not the primary driver of exploitation for these species, there were questions as to the likely effectiveness of an Appendix 2 listing for conservation of the species. To conclude, the expert panel found that Proposal 29 does not meet the criteria for Appendix 2. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, FAO. I have WCS.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. Hablo en nombre de WCS y otras 15 organizaciones de la sociedad civil, las cuales deseamos manifestar nuestro apoyo a la propuesta 29 para la inclusión de los tiburones cazón, Galorhinus galeus, Gatuzos, Mustelus schmidti, Mustelus mustelus y todas las especies del género Mustelus en el apéndice 2 de las CITES. Todas las poblaciones de los gastusos Mustelus schmidti y Mustelus mustelus y la mayoría de las poblaciones del cazón Gallorhinus galeus han disminuido drásticamente debido a la pesca no sostenible, impulsada en gran medida por la demanda internacional de su carne y aletas. Mustelus schmidti y Gallorhinus galeus están clasificados como en peligro crítico a nivel mundial, debido a reducciones de la población mundial de más del 80% en las últimas 3 generaciones. Mustelus mustelus está clasificado como en peligro debido a una reducción de la población mundial del 50 al 79% en las últimas 3 generaciones. La reciente aparición de este grupo de especies en los principales mercados de aletas de tiburones en Asia, representando el 30% del volumen comercializado, es un llamado urgente a su regulación en el comercio internacional. Los especímenes comercializados de otras especies del género Mustelus se asemejan a los de Gallorhinus galeus, Mustelus mustelus y Mustelus schmidti, por lo que es poco probable que los agentes de control que encuentren especímenes de especies incluidas en las CITES puedan distinguirlos correctamente. También queremos aclarar que estamos preparados para otorgar apoyo técnico a los países miembros para el desarrollo de dictámenes de extracción no perjudicial de las especies mencionadas y ayudar en la implementación de esta propuesta en tiempo y forma. Hacemos un llamado a todas las partes para que adopten esta propuesta, poder regular el mercado internacional y ayudar a conservar estas especies para no comprometer su existencia en la naturaleza.
Thank you, WCS. I have IUCN.
Thank you, Chair. This is a joint IUCN traffic intervention. Available evidence shows that Gallorhinus galeus and Mustelus schmidti have undergone marked population declines from historical baselines consistent with the indicative guidelines for Appendix 2 inclusion for commercially exploited, low productivity aquatic species set out in the footnote to Annex 5 of Resolution Conf 9.24 Rev CoP17. For Mustelus mustelus, evidence of ongoing declines, range contractions, loss of genetically distinct populations, and continued harvests suggests that regulation is needed to ensure that trade is not further reducing wild populations to a level at which their survival may be threatened. Once processed, products of Mustelus species are difficult to distinguish in trade, particularly meat and their relatively small fins. Therefore, the inclusion of all other Mustelus species as lookalikes appears justified and could support implementation by preventing substitution and facilitating enforcement. Any split listing risks undermining the effectiveness of such a listing. These proposals reflect biological conditions consistent with the species meeting listing criteria under Annex 2A and the lookalike provisions under Annex 2B. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, IUCN. And lastly, IWMC. Then I will conclude. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Our comments apply to other proposals for the listing or uplisting of shark species, including those already decided upon. Chair, in addition to the comments made by the FAO to the fact that the proposal do not apply to the criteria, to the CITES criteria, we have to look at the efficiency from a conservation perspective of those listings that we are deciding on. It just happened that international trade is not the main cause of the mortality in the field with respect to shark species. Mortality is due mainly to bycatch in tuna fishing operations or by traditional fisheries aiming at looking at subsistence fisheries of sharks. So therefore, we have to assume that a listing of CITES will not add anything to these already existing precaution taken by the RFMOs and will definitely not diminish the mortality level of those species. But nevertheless, we'll continue to list species on CITES appendices with no conservation benefit in sight. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, IWMC. So I have had almost unanimous support for this proposal. I have one party who has been speaking against, so I would like to turn to Japan again, and ask if you would be willing to not block the consensus. So I give the floor to Japan.
Thank you, Chair. In spirit of compromise, yes, we do not block the consensus. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Japan, for your help here. So this lets me conclude that Committee 1, in relation to proposal CoP20, Prop 29 on Galeorinus galeos and Mustelos SPP with a delay of implementation of 18 months, accepts this proposal by consensus. So thank you very much. We now turn our attention to CoP20, Prop 30, Mobulida, SPP, Manta, and devil rays. It is a proposal to transfer the species of this family from Appendix 2 to Appendix 1. It is proposed by the Bahamas, Belize, Brazil, Comoros, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, Fiji, Gabon, Jamaica, Maldives, Panama, Samoa, Senegal, Seychelles, Sudan, and Togo. I would like to invite Ecuador to introduce that proposal. Ecuador, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. Ecuador tiene el honor de presentar la propuesta para transferir del apéndice 2 al apéndice 1 de la Convención la familia Mobulide, que incluye 9 especies. Señor presidente, estimadas partes, hace una década esta convención listó a estas especies en el apéndice 2 con la esperanza de lograr un comercio sostenible. Sin embargo, hoy debemos ser honestos ante la evidencia. Esa regulación no ha sido eficiente. La demanda internacional sigue impulsando una pesca que hoy es profundamente insostenible. Estas especies son extremadamente vulnerables desde el punto de vista biológico. Su ciclo de vida es conservador, crecimiento lento y maduración tardía. No están diseñadas para soportar la presión actual. Lamentablemente, al ignorar estos límites, nos enfrentamos a una realidad alarmante. Se ha documentado una fuerte disminución de la población superior al 80% y en unos casos hasta el 99% en todas las especies. Distinguidos delegados, estas cifras que han ocurrido en el plazo de apenas 1 o 2 generaciones confirman que las especies de la familia Mobulide cumplen plenamente con los criterios biológicos para su inclusión en el apéndice 1. A pesar de la protección actual, estudios recientes revelan cifras abrumadoras. Cada año se capturan alrededor de 265.000 ejemplares en al menos 85 países. Lo preocupante es que el comercio es muy superior al nivel reportado en la base de datos del comercio de las CITES, lo que indica que es muy probable que sea insostenible o ilegal. El incentivo económico es poderoso. Las placas branquiales valen ahora más de $450 por kilo. Además, el comercio se ha trasladado a plataformas en línea, creando un sistema menos transparente donde las autoridades les resulta más difícil rastrear y regular a los comerciantes. La inclusión en el apéndice 1 es una herramienta necesaria. Eliminaría los factores que impulsan esta presión pesquera, armonizaría la legislación internacional, considerando que se encuentra en el apéndice 1 de la Convención sobre Especies Migratorias y facilitaría el seguimiento al comercio ilegal. Si se mantiene el ritmo actual, las poblaciones seguirán disminuyendo. Estos gigantes oceánicos merecen la oportunidad de recuperarse. Con el respaldo de la ciencia y la recomendación de la Secretaría, les instamos a unirse a nosotros y adoptar esta propuesta por el futuro de estas especies. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Ecuador. I now open the floor to parties. And just remind you that we know that all the co-proponents certainly are in support. So if the co-proponents take the floor, please be brief. I have the Maldives.
Thank you, Chair. Maldives would like to align themselves with the co-proponents of this proposal. These species are endangered at a global level and population levels are continuing to decline. And there continue to be levels of global exploitation, increasing pressures from legal and illegal trade of these species. With all species of race being protected in the Maldives under national law, we strongly believe that to align with other international measures and to provide these species with the highest level of international protection, we would support the uplisting of these species to Appendix 1. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Maldives. Gabon.
I said in.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Malgré leur inscription à l'annexe 2, nous notons un déclin marqué des populations de ces espèces déjà vulnérables, causées par une exploitation croissante, non durable et souvent illégale. Le transfert en annexe 1 se présente comme une mesure cruciale pour éliminer la pression commerciale. Le Gabon, co-auteur de cette proposition de transfert, invite les parties à les soutenir. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you. I have Japan.
Thank you, Chair. I believe we are now talking about the proposal 30 because the screen still says we are talking about the proposal 29. I believe we are talking proposal 30.
Yes, we are talking about proposal 30 and not
30.
29.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Japan would like to thank the proponents for preparing this proposal, which has drawn attention to the need for management of these species. However, Japan has to oppose this proposal to transfer these species to Appendix 1 in light of the following 3 points. First, lack of scientific evidence to show that this species meets the CITES listing criteria. Second, sufficient management measures by CITES parties and regional fisheries management organizations already exist. And third, needs to ensure smooth conduct of scientific research activities for the conservation of these species. We believe that this proposal could hinder the scientific research needed to conserve these species. That's why we have to oppose this proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Japan. Monaco.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Au regard des éléments fournis, Monaco soutient cette inscription de transfert à l'annexe 1. Merci.
I now have Honduras.
Gracias, señor presidente. En nombre de Argentina, Brasil, Bolivia, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Jamaica y Uruguay, a través de Honduras, queremos elogiar y reconocer el trabajo exhaustivo realizado por los proponentes de la propuesta 30. Reconocemos que las rayas mobúlidas son un grupo altamente vulnerable, con baja tasa reproductiva y poblaciones fragmentadas. La información presentada destaca graves disminuciones globales a pesar de su inclusión en el apéndice 2. El comercio internacional, en particular de branquias, no ha disminuido y sigue representando una amenaza significativa. Las cifras muestran un aumento de los precios y una expansión del comercio mundial. En nuestra región, estas especies cumplen funciones ecológicas cruciales como animales pelágicos filtradores, conectando los ecosistemas costeros con los ambientes oceánicos y contribuyendo al transporte de nutrientes. Considerando la información científica presentada y la extrema vulnerabilidad de estas especies, la región presente reconoce y apoya la transferencia al apéndice 1 y reafirma su compromiso con la conservación marina. Gracias.
Thank you. I have UK. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The UK supports this listing proposal and thanks Ecuador and the co-proponents for bringing it to COP. An Appendix 1 listing would help strengthen implementation by providing a clear and consistent framework for enforcement, reducing opportunities for loopholes and supporting efforts to prevent further population declines. An Appendix 1 listing is needed to provide these rays with the highest level of international protection. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, UK. European Union.
Gracias, presidente. Hablo en nombre de la Unión Europea y de sus 27 Estados miembros. Queremos agradecer a Ecuador y a todos los proponentes por presentar esta importante propuesta para lograr una mayor protección internacional para las mantas y las rayas diablo. Los mobúlidos son altamente migratorios, biológicamente vulnerables y están experimentando graves disminuciones poblacionales a escala mundial. Coincidimos en que el criterio biológico C, es decir, un declive poblacional marcado para su inclusión en el apéndice 1, se cumple para todas las especies de la familia Mobulidae. Además, la actualización más reciente de la lista roja de la UICN de 2025 incluye nuevas evaluaciones para las especies Mobula mobular, Mobula thurstoni y Mobula tarapacana, todas ellas ahora clasificadas como en peligro crítico, lo que subraya aún más la gravedad de su estado de conservación. También observamos que, pese a su inclusión en el apéndice 2, el comercio internacional de placas branquiales y otros productos ha seguido aumentando, tanto de manera legal como ilegal, contribuyendo a su continuo declive. La gestión histórica deficiente y la escasa notificación del comercio, combinadas con la vulnerabilidad de estas especies, dejan claro que la protección del apéndice 1 es necesaria para controlar su explotación y permitir la recuperación de sus poblaciones. Por lo tanto, apoyamos esta propuesta de incluir estas especies en el apéndice 1, que reforzará los esfuerzos de aplicación y complementará las medidas de conservación nacionales, regionales e internacionales. Y animamos a todas las partes a reconocer la urgencia de esta acción y a cooperar para implementar medidas eficaces que protejan a estas emblemáticas especies marinas. Gracias.
Thank you, EU. Now we have Oman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Concerning CoP20 Proposal 30, the Sultanate of Oman strongly support the proposal to transfer all the species of the family Mobulidae from Appendix 2 to Appendix 1. This is because scientific evidence shows alarming decline of up to 99% in the several population worldwide, despite their current Appendix 2 listing. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Oman. Bangladesh.
Thank you, Chair. Bangladesh wants to ensure that future generations who have the opportunity of encountering the fascinating and graceful manta and devil rays in the wild. The science is clear. We are not doing enough for this species. In our national act, it is highly protected. So Bangladesh supports the proposal 30 to transfer manta and devil rays from Appendix 2 to Appendix 1. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Bangladesh. Sudan.
Thank you, Chair. Sudan, as co-proponent, believes that the proposal of listing is scientifically justified, precautionary, and necessary to ensure the survival of this iconic species. We therefore urge parties to support Proposal 30 and adopt this measure at CoP20. Thank you.
Thank you, Sudan. I have now Senegal.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Notre pays est co-auteur de cette proposition et soutient l'inscription des raies manta et des mobilidés à la CITES en raison de leur déclin rapide et de leur extrême vulnérabilité biologique. L'annexe 1 est indispensable pour mettre fin au commerce international qui alimente leur surexploitation et compromet leur survie. Cette inscription permettra de renforcer les mesures de conservation, de réduire la pression exercée sur les populations et de soutenir les efforts globaux en faveur de la biodiversité marine. Nous appelons les parties à soutenir cette proposition essentielle pour protéger ces espèces emblématiques. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Senegal. I have New Zealand.
Thank you, Chair. New Zealand supports this proposal. The two species of mobulid rays that occur in the New Zealand EEZ are both absolutely protected under our Wildlife Act. We also think that maybe some of the data to support the listing of all of the species in Appendix 1 may be a bit thin, but in such cases we take the precautionary principle and err on the side of giving greater protection in the absence of data. So we support this proposal.
Thank you. Indonesia.
Thank you, Chair. Indonesia wishes to clarify its position regarding the proposed uplisting for mobula species. Indonesia supports the uplisting for Mobula alfredi and Mobula birostris to Appendix 1. However, we propose that other Mobula species remain in Appendix 2 and available for utilization, especially living specimen for ornamental purposes, provided this align with educational and conservation efforts. Thank you, Chair.
Indonesia, can you please repeat the two species you would want to have in Appendix 1?
Indonesia support the uplisting Appendix 1 for Mobula alfredi and Mobula birostris.
Thank you, Indonesia. So, if I understand you correctly, you propose to have an amended proposal only containing the two species, Mobula alfredi and Mobula birostris, to be included in Appendix 1. Is that correct?
Correct.
So parties, this means that we have now, well, I have to go back to the original proponents if they would agree to have their proposal changed to only include those two species. But from what I have heard, I don't think that that will be an option, but I have to have confirmation. Can please Panama indicate whether they would be in agreement to adopt that proposal instead of theirs? Panama, you have the floor. Excuse me, Ecuador. I have to ask Ecuador if they would be in agreement to adopt that proposal. Ecuador, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. Consideramos que la información científica presentada en la propuesta es clara y no estamos de acuerdo con la propuesta hecha por Indonesia.
Thank you. So whenever you take the floor now, please consider that we have two parallel proposals on the table. One, the original one with all the species of Mobulida, and the second proposal by Indonesia to limit the inclusion in Appendix 1 to only two species, Mobula alfredi and Mobula birostris. So please take this into consideration. So I have now Mauritania.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. La Mauritanie soutient la proposition de Bahamas, Brésil, Sénégal et d'autres. Pour l'espèce Remanta aimante, en général, pour assurer la meilleure protection pour cette espèce. Merci.
Thank you. Please also mention when you take the floor whether you are not in support of the second proposal, to be clear, okay? So I have Kenya.
Thank you, Chairman. Kenya would like to thank Ecuador and the other parties for putting up this proposal. Chairman, based on the scientific information provided by the proposal proponents, and the information of a significant decline of up to over 90% population decline, Kenya supports the transfer of the entire species from Appendix 2 to Appendix 1. And in the same vein as we do not support the amendment proposed by Indonesia because of the issue of split listing and the enforcement challenge that comes with it, in line with the localized species. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Kenya. I have Iran.
Good morning, Chair. Aligning with the proponent countries and the statements made by EU representatives, Iran strongly supports the original proposal, and the situation for the mobilized species is already clear, and we have lost most of the populations of the species in the world, and our oceans and species are already in the severe threats and pressures, and really the illegal trade and takeout the mobilized species is really detrimental for those species. So we are strongly in support of the original proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Iran. I have Congo.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Le Congo soutient fermement cette proposition dans sa forme originale proposée par l'Équateur, car ces espèces devraient être éligibles notamment à l'annexe 1, qui serait une mesure urgente pour réduire la demande pour leurs nombreuses parties faisant l'objet de commerces internationaux. Malgré que ces espèces soient classées en annexe 2, on a continué à constater le déclin de toutes les populations. C'est ainsi que nous convions toutes les parties ici présentes de soutenir cette proposition sous sa forme originale. Merci.
Thank you. I have now Fiji.
Thank you, Chair. Fiji is proud to stand as a co-proponent of this proposal, and today I speak from a deeply cultural and Pacific perspective of why this uplisting is not only scientifically justified, but morally necessary for our people. In the Pacific, the ocean is not a resource, it is a relative. Our identity, our genealogies, our ceremonies, our food systems, and our stories are all woven around the creatures that share these waters with us. Among them, the manta and the devil ray hold a very special place. In our tradition, these species are symbols of wisdom, of peace, and the quiet intelligence of the ocean. They are not taken lightly. We teach our children that the first responsibility of a Pacific Islander is vewakani, a Fijian word that means maintaining sacred relationship with all living things. To these species pushed towards commercial extinction due to forces far beyond our shore is a profound violation of this relationship. For Fiji, this is not only a conservation concern, it is a cultural alarm bell. Protecting the species of ray aligns with the values that have guided Pacific stewardship for generations, to only take what we need, protect what we cannot replenish, and honor species whose role in the ecosystems are irreplaceable. Appendix 1 is the level of protection that these species require and they deserve. We also wish to state for the record that we do not support the second proposal that was put forward by Indonesia. Chair, the Pacific is a region that has contributed the least to the decline of these species, but we feel their loss the most. Their disappearance would not be a statistic for us. It would be a loss of cultural heritage, a loss of our identity, a loss of one thread in the great tapestry of the ocean that sustains us. For these reasons, grounded not only in science, but in culture, kinship, and moral responsibility, Fiji strongly supports the transfer of the mobuli species to Appendix 1. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Fiji. I will take 3 more parties, and then I will propose how we move forward. So, Pakistan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. And Pakistan supports the original proposal in its shape. Thank you.
Togo.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Le Togo, qui est co-auteur de cette proposition, soutient l'inscription de cette espèce à l'annexe 1, telle que initialement proposée dans sa version originale. Et donc, nous ne sommes pas d'accord avec l'amendement proposé par l'Indonésie. Je vous remercie.
And Mali.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. La République du Mali remercie le secrétariat ainsi que les auteurs de la proposition pour les éclairages apportés, en particulier concernant la menace liée à la pêche non durable et la forte demande sur le marché international. En conséquence, le Mali approuve le transfert de ces espèces à l'annexe de l'annexe 2 à l'annexe 1 de la CITES dans une logique de précaution en vue de favoriser la reconstruction de ces populations et surtout la vulnérabilité aussi notée par l'UCN. Nous rejetons l'amendement proposé par l'Indonésie. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, Mali. So I would like now to close that list, and I would like to ask all parties who still want to speak now to take themselves off the list. I would like now to open the floor to parties who are in favor of the proposal of Indonesia, so that I do get a sense of the room whether you are in favor of supporting the proposal by Indonesia. Israel, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We are asking for the floor for clarification, please, on exactly which procedure of Rule 25 we are working under. Rule 25 is the procedure for deciding on proposals. Sub-Rule 3 speaks about a representative that moves for parts of the proposal to be decided on separately, while Rule 5 speaks about a representative proposing an amendment to a proposal. So we're not sure if you are conducting this session in accordance with Rule 3 or Rule 5 in terms of Indonesia's proposal on some of the species. In either case, Rule 3 and Rule 5 speak about immediate decisions about the proposed changes before moving forward. So we would prefer clarification, sir, on the way that we're moving forward. On the actual issue here, we would state that Israel supports unequivocally the original proposal for moving all the species to Appendix 1.
Thank you, Israel. If I read the Rule 25, any representative may propose an amendment to a proposal for amendment of Appendix 1 or 2 to reduce its scope or to make it more precise. The presiding officer may permit the immediate discussion and consideration of such a proposed amendment, even though it has not been circulated previously. If consensus cannot be reached, then the proposed amendment shall be put to a vote. I tend to agree with your saying that we should have been putting it to a vote immediately. I just wanted to give the possibility also to have a more a longer view on this one. So you may be right, but I think if the next one I will treat it that way, but I didn't want to have a vote immediately, so I will proceed as I proposed. If you are in agreement on that one, and ask if there are any parties in support of that proposal, then I will go back to Indonesia to ask how they want to proceed, if they want to have a vote, and then we can conclude. Is that okay? Okay, thank you, Israel. I have China.
Thank you, Chair. China supports the proposal of Indonesia. Thank you.
Thank you, China. So we have two parties proposing an amendment to this original proposal, and I would like to go back to Indonesia if they insist on this proposal, and if they do, then I will go for a vote. So Indonesia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We're still in the same position previously, and we propose to vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Indonesia. So this means we will have to go to a vote. So we will be voting on the amendment to proposal 30 on mobulida submitted by Indonesia, which is that the proposal will be reduced to only transfer the species Mobula alfredi and Mobula birostris into Appendix 1 and leaving all the other species in Appendix 2. So a vote of yes will mean that you are in agreement with Indonesia that only these two species should be moved to the to Appendix 1. If you vote no, then you will not adopt this change. Okay? The voting type is normal vote. The vote of the European Union will be cast by the delegation of the EU. I have St. Lucia. St. Lucia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, in light of you proposing to go to a vote, St. Lucia would like to request secret ballot. Thank you.
Thank you, St. Lucia. St. Lucia has asked this vote to be on a secret ballot, so I need 10 parties seconding that motion from St. Lucia to have it a secret ballot, and I would like to ask 10 parties or parties to push their button so that we have 10 parties supporting that motion. Thank you, parties. I only have 9 parties in favor of a secret ballot, so we will have no secret ballot. It's too late. So, as I said, this is a vote on an amended proposal 30, which would only transfer the two species Mobula alfredi and Mobula birostris into Appendix 1, as proposed by Indonesia. A vote yes means you are in favor of this reduction in scope. Vote no is you are against this proposed change. So the voting type is by normal vote. The vote of the European Union will be cast by the delegation of the EU. Since this is a vote on a proposal to amend Appendices 1 and 2, the decision will be adopted by a 2/3 majority. So parties, you have 40 seconds to cast your vote. The ballot is open now. Okay, can you please display the results on the screen? So with 17 yes, 108 no, and 10 abstentions, this proposal to amend the original proposal is rejected. Can technicians please show the parties, single parties? Thank you. So thank you. So with this, we are going back to the original proposal, and I have had almost unanimous support for the original proposal. So I have to go back to Japan again to ask if they would be, in a sense of compromise, ready to accept a consensus. Japan?
Thank you, Chair. In the spirit of compromise, we do not block consensus. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Japan. So this means that for Committee 1, that the proposal CoP20, Prop 30, to transfer the mobulida, SPP, the manta and devil rays from Appendix 2 to Appendix 1 was accepted by consensus. Now we move on to the next agenda proposal, which is CoP20 Prop 31 on Rhincodon typus, the whale shark. It's a proposal to transfer that species from Appendix 2 to Appendix 1. It has been proposed by Argentina, Bahamas, Bangladesh, Belize, Comoros, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, Fiji, Gabon, Maldives, Panama, Philippines, Samoa, Senegal, Seychelles, Sri Lanka, and Togo. I would like to give the floor to the Maldives to introduce that proposal. Are the Maldives ready to? Okay, we have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The Maldives is delighted to join with the 17 co-sponsoring parties that represent every ocean in the world and to present Proposal 31 that offers Appendix 1 protection to the world's largest fish, the unique and globally endangered whale shark. The whale shark was one of the original CITES Appendix 2 listings over 20 years ago in 2003. The species has declined from vulnerable to endangered on the IUCN Red List over that time. They need stronger protection that Appendix 1 listing can offer to prevent further declines. Whale sharks are protected in the Maldives since 1995, given its significance to the country's marine biodiversity and tourism. As a protected species by national law, it is prohibited to hunt, harm, take, or kill the whale sharks, and guidelines for interactions with the species' sustainable tourism practices have been established to ensure their conservation and sustainable tourism practices. These regulations for interactions are crucial as the whale sharks draws huge attention to an ecotourism species, particularly in small island and coastal states in the tropics such as the Maldives, making its conservation an economic priority for us and many of our co-sponsoring partners. Whale sharks are the most watched shark in the world. Globally, whale shark tourism occurs at 35 sites, attracting around 1 million participants annually and worth over $140 million a year when last assessed. In the Maldives alone, whale shark tourism is worth over $10 million a year and supports sustainable livelihoods for many involved in these activities. For species such as whale sharks, their value as a dive and snorkel tourism resource, which often brings direct and wider benefits to isolated and vulnerable coastal communities, far outweighs any value from fisheries trade. This value from sustainable long-term tourism activities provide additional justification for stronger protection CITES Appendix 1 listing will offer. The whale shark is widely protected at national level around the world due to its vulnerability, highly migratory status, and its ecosystem value. A CITES Appendix 1 listing supports the widespread national protection measures implemented for these species and aligns with the international efforts such as CMS listing of whale sharks. We are in dire need of extra protection of an Appendix 1 listing. The whale shark is declining globally and soon may be unavailable for sustainable marine tourism, which coastal communities depend on. The Maldives' clear belief is that action is needed now. Despite the current Appendix 2 listing and limited reporting to trade to CITES, there is growing evidence that we have documented in our proposal that fins from the species are still illegally traded into shark fin trade hubs in East Asia. They are sold as display items for seafood retail stores and restaurants due to their large size and unique patterns. Additionally, the INF document submitted by Australia further demonstrates a significant population decline of whale sharks in the Indian Ocean. This continued and significant trade clearly shows a need for Appendix 1 listing now. Illegal trade is a factor in continued whale shark decline, but climate change is reducing their feeding and breeding habitats and forcing them into areas which are more likely to be injured and killed where fisheries bycatch and ship strikes. Both of these sources of mortality are driving declines and are a major threat to their survival and should be factored into considerations for an Appendix 1 uplisting. Fellow CITES parties, it is clear to you as it is clear to us that this species fully meets the Appendix 1 listing criteria due to its decline in populations that is projected to decline. We must offer the whale shark the strongest protection possible so it can recover and continue to provide us and the oceans with the incredible ecological and economic value that the only world's largest fish can bring. Whale sharks are true ocean giants, but they face giant problems in our rapidly changing oceans. We ask for your help in protecting our crucial ocean resources. Please join us in voting yes on this proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Maldives, for this introduction. I now open the floor for comments from parties. I have Japan. Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Japan first would like to thank the proponents for preparing this proposal. However, Japan has opposed this proposal to transfer the whale shark from Appendix 2 to Appendix 1. Japan believes that the effectiveness of listing this species in Appendix 2 for its conservation hasn't been sufficiently reviewed since it was listed at CoP12 in 2002. Japan also considers that this proposal lacks scientific rationale for transferring this species to Appendix 1. We'd like to note that both FAO expert panel and CITES Secretariat have concluded that this proposal doesn't meet the CITES Appendix 1 listing criteria. In addition, we believe that this proposal could hinder the scientific research necessary for the conservation of this species. It is essential to ensure that smooth conduct of such research activities. Therefore, we oppose this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Japan. After Philippines.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Philippines is proud to be a co-proponent of the proposal to uplist whale shark, Rincodon typos, from Appendix 2 to Appendix 1 of this convention. To recall, The Philippines, along with India and several other countries, has proposed the listing of the species for CITES Appendix 2 at CoP12, which has been successfully adopted. The whale shark is more than just a species to us. It is our national pride. Domestically, we have protected the species since 1998. These legal measures has helped the whale shark tourism interaction industry thrive, providing livelihood to coastal communities. It has become a priority species for conservation in our country, and is even featured in our 100 peso banknote. However, our efforts alone are not enough. While our waters are a haven for whale sharks, they are highly migratory species that traverse jurisdictional water of numerous range states and the high seas. Its transboundary nature means that no single nation can ensure its protection. Its predictable aggregation in coastal waters make it susceptible to targeted harvesting, while its oceanic migration exposes it to industrial fishing gear across ranges. The need for the highest level of international cooperation is indeed urgent. An Appendix 1 listing is the necessary and proportionate response to safeguard Rincodon typos from the threat of international trade and to secure its recovery for future generations. We respectfully, therefore, urge all the parties to support this proposal. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Philippines. Djibouti.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président, pour la parole accordée. En tant qu'aire de répartition du requin-baleine, nous appuyons son transfert de l'annexe 2 à l'annexe 1. Espèce migratrice, cette espèce rejoint les eaux territoriales de mon pays chaque année d'octobre à février. Le golfe de Tajura, à l'entrée de la mer Rouge, devient un haut lieu de rendez-vous de ces géants des océans et des mers. La majorité des individus rencontrés dans cette partie de la planète avoisinent les 4 à 5 mètres. Il s'agit la plupart du temps des individus encore très jeunes qui suivent le plancton dans ces eaux riches aux éléments nutritifs. Malheureusement, les dernières données nationales montrent que sa population diminue chaque année. Ainsi, au niveau national, nous avons mis en place des programmes de protection de cette espèce durant sa migration et sa chasse est interdite au niveau national. Nous avons déclaré aire marine protégée la zone de rassemblement de cette espèce avec une réglementation des flux de touristes dans ces zones protégées. Ainsi, les bateaux visitant cette zone sont tous équipés d'une protection d'hélice afin de ne pas blesser le requin-baleine. À ce titre, pour une conservation de cette espèce au niveau international, nous nous alignons fortement à cette proposition. Nous rappelons à ce titre que les parties de la CITES ont tous la responsabilité de trouver le juste milieu entre le commerce et la conservation des espèces sauvages. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Djibouti. I now have Pakistan.
Thank you, Chair. Pakistan believes that the proposal of the Maldives has basis in science and logic. Accordingly, we align our position with Maldives and support the proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Pakistan. Australia.
Thank you, Chair. Australia notes the concerns raised in the proposal regarding the continued decline of whale shark populations since the species was listed in Appendix 2 in 2003. We share the proponents' concern about continued declines. Australia submitted CoP20 InfDoc 21, which provides information on close kin mark recapture research undertaken by Australia's National Science Agency from 2016 to 2023. Close kin mark recapture is a reliable genetic method for determining absolute population numbers rather than other methods which estimate a theoretical population size. These research findings are useful given the listing proposal itself highlights the Indian Ocean population is estimated to account for around 75% of the global population. This report estimates the Indian Ocean whale shark population has declined by nearly 50% from 2000 to 2019. In 2000, the breeding population was approximately 3,700 individuals, which has declined to approximately 2,050 in 2019. On the basis of this information, Australia has concluded that this represents a marked decline in 19 years and a continuing decline of more than 3% a year. While we recognise there appears to be minimal legal international commercial trade of whale shark specimens, Australia supports the proposed listing and urges parties to consider the newly released science in making their decision to uplist whale shark to Appendix 1. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Australia. I now would like to give the floor to Oman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Regarding CoP20 Proposal 31, the Sultanate of Oman supports the proposal to transfer the whale shark from Appendix 2 to Appendix 1. Given its extremely low biological productivity and high vulnerability, protection under Appendix 1 is urgently needed to halt unsustainable exploitation and align with our existing national protection. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Oman. Monaco.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Prenant en compte les éléments fournis par les auteurs de la proposition et par les experts, Monaco soutient le transfert du requin-baleine à l'annexe 1. Merci.
Thank you. Now I have Chile.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. Chile quisiera expresar su apoyo a la propuesta presentada por Maldivas y sus coproponentes para transferir el tiburón ballena al apéndice 1. Señor presidente, Chile tiene una veda permanente para esta especie desde el año 2009 y contamos con avistamiento en el territorio nacional en nuestras islas oceánicas, por ejemplo, en el Parque Nacional Marino Motu-Motiro-Jiva. Creemos que el documento preparado cuenta con la información necesaria para justificar la transferencia de apéndices, para con ello reforzar la protección y conservación para esta especie. Muchas gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Chile. Now I would like to go to the European Union. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The EU and its member states support the proposal to transfer the whale shark to Appendix 1 and align ourselves with previous speakers in favor of this proposal. Given the endangered status and declining trend in whale shark populations globally, and increasing threats to the species, such as climate change effects on core habitats, ship strikes, as well as illegal trade, an Appendix 1 listing is justified as the criteria C is met. An Appendix 1 listing would be complementary to and align with the protection under national, regional, and international agreements, for example, the Convention of Migratory Species. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, EU. I have now Gabon.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Le Gabon est co-auteur de cette mesure visant à renforcer la protection des requins-baleines. Espèce classée en danger, le requin-baleine ne peut supporter aucun niveau de commerce international car même de faibles volumes ont un impact significatif en raison de sa croissance lente, de sa reproduction tardive et de sa très faible productivité. Nous rappelons aussi l'importance économique et sociale de cette espèce. Le tourisme d'observation des requins-baleines génère des revenus considérables pour plusieurs pays côtiers et constitue une alternative durable au commerce. Pour protéger à la fois l'espèce et continuer à garantir des retombées socio-économiques vitales, donc assurer un développement durable, nous appelons les parties à soutenir cette proposition. Je vous remercie.
Thank you. Now I give the floor to Sri Lanka.
Thank you, Chair. Sri Lanka, as a co-sponsor, fully supports this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I have Malaysia.
Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Malaysia support listing Rincodon typhus in Appendix 1. Whale sharks are vulnerable, slow-growing, and declining due to bycatch and climate change. Appendix 1 will strengthen international protection, support enforcement, and help conserve this iconic species for biodiversity, ecotourism, and future generation. Malaysia support. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Now I give the floor to Colombia.
Gracias, señor presidente. Hablo en nombre de Guatemala, Brasil, Ecuador, Uruguay, Belice, Argentina, Honduras y mi país para expresar nuestro apoyo a la propuesta 31 para transferir el tiburón ballena Rincodon typhus del apéndice 2 al apéndice 1 de acuerdo con el criterio C del anexo 1 de la resolución COP 9.24. El tiburón ballena es el pez más grande que existe con una duración de vida larga, madurez tardía y baja tasa reproductiva, lo que hace vulnerable a las diferentes amenazas y particularmente a la explotación. Se trata de una especie que para nosotros, como seguramente es para otros países aquí presentes, aporta significativamente más beneficios a la economía mientras está vivo en el agua que si fuera capturado o extraído, debido a su importancia como especie focal para el turismo de buceo por su belleza y carisma. En el Pacífico colombiano es una fuente importante de ingresos para comunidades costeras. Personalmente puedo asegurar que es una experiencia absolutamente inolvidable ver a este animal en el agua e invito a todos a que lo puedan hacer. A pesar de estar incluida en el apéndice 2 de CITES desde 2003, cuando se consideraba vulnerable, el riesgo de extinción de esta especie es ahora significativamente mayor. La IUCN la ha reclasificado en 2016 como en peligro de extinción debido a una reducción de más de 2/3 de la población mundial. El mayor impacto se registra en el Indo-Pacífico, donde se concentra la mayor población y donde la amenaza por pesca es más intensa. Actualmente la especie enfrenta una serie de amenazas como las colisiones con barcos, deterioro del hábitat por cambio climático, polución y pesca incidental, siendo esta última reconocida como la principal amenaza a nivel global. Además, los datos muestran que las aletas de tiburón ballena aún persisten en el mercado internacional, por lo cual su comercio sigue siendo una amenaza. Reconociendo que la inclusión de la especie de CITES en el 2003 aportó de manera importante a la conservación de la especie, consideramos que su transferencia a un apéndice más restrictivo puede fortalecer su protección, permitiendo que los esfuerzos globales se concentren en manejar las otras amenazas. Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Colombia. I'm getting a sense of the room that, with one exception, all parties are in favor of this proposal. So I would like to ask you if you are in favor of this proposal to take yourselves off the list so that I can see if there is really agreement on this one, largely agreement on this one. Okay, so I think we are quite clear that the room, with the exception of one party, that is opposed to this proposal, and I have to go back to Japan again on this matter. Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. In the spirit of compromise, we do not block consensus. Thank you.
Thank you, Japan, for your cooperation. So I take it that proposal CoP20, proposal 31, to transfer Rincodon typhus, the whale shark, from Appendix 2 to Appendix 1 was accepted by consensus. So thank you very much. Now we move to CoP20 Proposal 32, Glaucostegus SPP giant guitarfish, with the following annotation: a 0 annual export quota for wild-taken specimen traded for commercial purposes to Glaucostegus SPP listing in Appendix 2. So it's to list the species in the Appendix 2 with this annotation. The proponents are Bangladesh, Benin, Brazil, Burkina Faso, Burundi, Cabo Verde, Central African Republic, Comoros, Congo, Gabon, Gambia, Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, Maldives, Mali, Nigeria, Panama, Sierra Leone, Sudan, and Togo. I see Benin is asking for the floor, so I will give the floor to Benin to introduce this proposal.
Merci, Monsieur le Président, de me donner l'occasion de présenter la proposition visant à compléter l'inscription existante à l'annexe 2 des grandes guitares de mer par l'ajout de la disposition suivante. Un quota annuel d'exportation zéro pour les spécimens prélevés dans la nature faisant l'objet de transactions à des fins commerciales. Monsieur le Président, chers collègues, cette proposition est soumise par la République du Bénin conjointement avec 18 autres pays d'Afrique, d'Amérique latine et d'Asie. Le genre concerné comprend 7 espèces, toutes classées en danger critique d'extinction par l'UICN. Avec les raies wedgefish, ces grandes guitares de mer figurent parmi les familles de requins et raies les plus menacées au niveau mondial. Depuis leur inscription en annexe 2 lors de la COP18 en 2019, de nouvelles données ont été publiées. Elles révèlent des déclins de population bien plus graves qu'anticipés. Aujourd'hui, les 7 espèces du genre Glaucostegus subissent des déclins mondiaux estimés entre 80 et 89% à travers leur aire de répartition, y compris l'espèce décrite plus récemment, la guitare de mer du Bangladesh. La valeur extrêmement élevée de leurs ailerons, les plus chers de tous les requins et raies sur le marché international, continue d'alimenter la surexploitation et le commerce international. Étant donné que l'état de conservation de ces espèces, on ne peut en déduire que ce commerce est à la fois non durable, et illégal, puisqu'il est peu probable qu'il puisse être démontré comme non préjudiciable. Bien que ces espèces répondent pleinement aux critères d'inscription à l'annexe 1, une étude scientifique évaluée par les pairs publiée en 2019 indique qu'elles pourraient se rétablir en quelques décennies si la mortalité liée à la pêche est maintenue à des niveaux faibles. Éliminer le moteur de capture et de rétention de ces espèces pour le commerce international grâce à la mise en place d'un quota de précautionneux d'exportation zéro offrirait aux populations la possibilité de se reconstituer dans le milieu naturel jusqu'au point où elles pourraient à nouveau supporter les limites de commerce durable. Cela permettrait d'éviter l'extinction de ces espèces et, si cette mesure réussit, de prévenir la nécessité d'une inscription à l'annexe 1 à l'avenir. Cette pause ouvrirait également la voie à un renforcement des mesures de gestion au niveau national et régional, insuffisantes jusqu'à ce moment. Nous demandons également, puisque nous avons la parole, pour que nous puissions avoir un consensus donc pour l'adoption de cette proposition. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Benna. I now open the floor to parties. Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Canada appreciates the concerns surrounding giant guitarfishes. However, Canada opposes this proposal to include this annotation for the giant guitarfishes, as this annotation is essentially equivalent to an Appendix 1 listing. It's not evident that the criteria justifying such an annotation are met. Given that guitarfishes were recently included in Appendix 2, we would suggest that if concerns exist around levels of significant trade and the sustainability of harvest, parties should consider including these species in the well-established Animals Committee review of significant trade process. This would be a welcome step. Thank you.
Thank you, Canada. I have the Dominican Republic.
Gracias, señor presidente. Todas las especies gigantes están en peligro crítico de extinción. Sin embargo, por sus aletas de alto valor siguen apareciendo de manera constante en el comercio mundial de aletas. Una cuota de exportación cero tiene que ser adoptada y nosotros apoyamos esta propuesta, ya que esto ayudaría a la rápida recuperación de las poblaciones. Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you. I have Burundi. Are you still asking for the floor, Burundi?
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Le Burundi, en tant que co-auteur de cette proposition, souhaite réaffirmer son plein soutien au quota d'exportation zéro pour les guitares de mer. Même si notre pays n'est pas côtier, nous sommes pleinement engagés dans la protection des espèces menacées et dans le respect du commerce durable. Les données scientifiques sont sans équivoque. Toutes les espèces de guitares de mer sont aujourd'hui en danger critique d'extinction. Avec des décrets atteignant 80 à 99% dans l'ensemble de leur aire de répartition. Leur commerce international demeure un moteur majeur dans la surexploitation, notamment via la valeur très élevée de leurs nageoires. L'adoption d'un quota zéro constitue une mesure indispensable pour prévenir une extinction imminente et pour éviter à ces espèces une future inscription à l'annexe 1. Le Burundi appelle toutes les parties à soutenir fermement cette proposition. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you. Indonesia.
Thank you, Chair. Indonesia wishes to state its firm opposition to Proposal 32 concerning the establishment of zero annual export quota for wild-taken specimen of Galapagos SPP. Indonesia notes that the listing of the genus in Appendix 2 was adopted at CoP18 in 2019 and only entered into force at the end of 2021. Therefore, CITES regulation has been effectively implemented for just 3 years. A period of at least 5 to 10 years is generally required to observe utilization trends and evaluate management effectiveness. Introducing a zero export quota at this early stage is premature and inconsistent with the purpose of the Appendix 2, which permits regulated and sustainable trade supported by robust non-determined findings. As the FAO expert panel review, the proposal also does not meet the criteria with insufficient evidence of population declines. Trade in Galapagos SPP in Indonesia is derived from small-scale artisanal fisheries, and imposing a zero quota would directly affect the livelihoods and welfare of the coastal communities, removing legal market access and risking the displacement of trade into unregulated channels. Indonesia also recalls the Secretariat review, which states that range states concerned about sustainability may consider voluntary zero export quota under Resolution Conference of 14.7 CoP15, emphasizing that such measures are discretionary and not mandatory. Accordingly, Indonesia respectfully opposed the proposal to establish a zero export quota for Galapagos SPP. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Indonesia. I now go to European Union. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I speak on behalf of the EU and its member states. We support the proposal to establish zero export quotas for wild-taken specimens traded for commercial purposes for all species within the genus Galapagos. All species within the genus are subject to intense, mostly unregulated fishing pressure as a result of targeted and incidental retained catches in coastal fisheries. Overexploitation is considered the main threat to the survival of these species. Due to the high value of, in particular, fins in international markets, there is ongoing international trade in all Galapagos species as demonstrated by CITES trade data since the listing of these species in Appendix 2 at COP18. We recognize that based on the best available data, the species already meet the biological criterion C, little ii, for inclusion in CITES Appendix 1, as all species exhibit a low productivity and populations have experienced a marked population decline of more than 80% over the last 3 generations, which has been inferred on the basis of decreases in catch rates and landings under intense fishing pressure. Therefore, we consider that as a precautionary measure, 0 export quotas for commercial trade in all Glaucostego species are in the best interest of the species, aiding the recovery and conservation of these species. Thank you.
Thank you, European Union. Now I would like to go to Congo. Congo, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Monsieur le Président, le Congo soutient pleinement la proposition portée par le Bénin et les autres co-auteurs visant à établir un quota annuel d'exportation zéro pour les guitares de mer. Ceci, c'est dans l'ensemble des zones côtières de distribution. Ces espèces présentent un déclin dramatique. Toutefois, l'UICN, selon l'UICN, toutes ces espèces sont aujourd'hui en danger critique d'extinction. Leur vulnérabilité biologique et la forte pression du commerce international des nageoires ne permettent plus d'assurer un commerce durable de ces espèces. Cette mesure ne cible pas les usages domestiques, mais vise à retirer l'incitation économique qui alimente la surpêche et le commerce illégal. C'est ainsi que le Congo invite toutes les parties à soutenir cette proposition pour la conservation de l'une des familles de poissons les plus menacées du monde. Je vous remercie.
Thank you. I now open the floor to United Kingdom.
Thank you, Chair. The UK supports this proposal and thanks the proponents for bringing this to COP. Many of the following points are also applicable to Proposal 33 for the wedgefish family. Along with the wedgefish, the giant guitarfish have been identified as the most threatened family of all chondrichthyons globally. Their fins sell for the highest value recorded for any fin type. With new science becoming available since their Appendix 2 listing, it is clear that stronger action is needed urgently to halt the further decline of these critically endangered species. While we are willing to support a 0 annual export quota to give this species an opportunity to recover, we believe that this species would meet the criteria for an Appendix 1 listing. We would therefore encourage any proponents of a 0 annual export quota at future COPs to consider whether an Appendix 1 listing may be more appropriate and in the best interest of the species. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, UK. I have Algeria. Algeria, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. L'Algérie soutient cette proposition, veut que les espèces connaissent une grande menace. Je vous remercie.
Thank you. Comores, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Comme vous le savez, les Comores sont co-auteurs de cette proposition. Nous considérons que l'ajout d'un quota d'exportation zéro est indispensable. Il s'agit de l'unique mesure capable d'offrir à ces espèces, aujourd'hui gravement menacées, donc une véritable chance de reconstitution. Cette action est prudente, proportionnée et fondée sur les données scientifiques les plus récentes. Nous appelons toutes les parties à soutenir ces deux propositions essentielles pour prévenir l'extinction de ces espèces. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you. Now I would like to give the floor to Japan.
Thank you, Chair. And Japan would like to thank the proponents for preparing this proposal. However, Japan also respectfully opposes the proposal. First, the proposal is not based on scientific evidence. Both FAO Expert Advisory Panel and CITES Secretariat concluded that it does not meet CITES listing criteria. Second, we note that the proposal seeks to include annotation at 0 annual export quota for wild-taken specimens traded for commercial purposes. We further note that the convention does not allow international trade in CITES Appendix 1 species for commercial purposes. Thus, this proposal 32 essentially proposes applying Appendix 1 level restrictions to Appendix 2 species without actually listing them into Appendix 1. In this regard, Japan is concerned that proposal may not be consistent with the convention. For those reasons, Japan does not support the proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Japan. I now give the floor to China. China, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. China agrees with Canada, Indonesia, and the Secretariat's assessment, which conclude that there is no sufficient evidence to support a zero export quota. Range countries are in the best position to determine any export quota according to their fishery management. China therefore opposes the proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, China. I have Iran.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In supporting the statements by European Union and the proponent countries and stressing the declining of the population of the species, Iran supports the original proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. I now have Monaco.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. L'inscription visant à favoriser la reconstitution des espèces, Monaco appuie cette proposition d'annotation. Merci.
Thank you. Oman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Oman would like to align itself with those countries who are in favor and supporting of this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, I have Australia.
Thank you, Chair. In the interests of enhancing trade measures and global conservation for the family, Australia supports the proposed annotation. Since guitarfish were listed on Appendix 2, Australia has published a non-detriment finding for the 3 species present in our waters. The NDF was possible due to strong fisheries management arrangements and a general lack of fishing pressure. We agree with the proponents that there is a compelling need for enhanced trade regulation and conservation for the guitarfish family and support the zero quota notation. Thank you, Chair.
I now have left almost only parties who are co-proponents, and I suppose they are all in agreement with this proposal. And in the interest of time, I would like to take yourself off the list, because I know it's clear you want to be supporting this proposal. I have still 3 parties asking for the floor. 2 are co-proponents. Okay, I close the list now. It's Panama, you have the floor.
Gracias, señor presidente. Solamente era para resaltar en nuestra intervención de apoyo que también íbamos a estar hablando por Costa Rica, Uruguay, Belice, Honduras, Guatemala y Brasil, quienes también están apoyando el anuncio.
Thank you very much. Okay. I would like now I have forgotten, I'm really sorry, the last time to give the floor also to IGOs, NGOs. I will make up this time, and I would like to give the floor now to some IGOs and NGOs. I see Humane World for Animals, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Humane World for Animals is making this intervention on behalf of 20 organizations that will be provided to the Secretariat. I'm speaking on this proposal and the next one, Proposals 32 and 33. We strongly recommend adoption of both proposals to add a zero export quota annotation on the Appendix 2 listings for giant guitarfish and wedgefish families Glaucostegidae and Rhinidae. Despite their listing on CITES Appendix 2 at CoP18, giant guitarfish and wedgefish populations have continued to decline, with all 7 species of giant guitarfish and all but one of the 11 species of wedgefish listed as critically endangered by the IUCN Red List. They're among the most threatened groups of all sharks and rays. Critically endangered species cannot be sustainably traded. We know that proponents of both proposals include many range states who are desperately trying to recover populations within their own waters and are here asking the world for help. These species are still regularly found in the international fin market despite Appendix 2 listings, and are the species most frequently found compared to all other sharks and ray species, occurring in 12% of fin outlets. A zero export quota annotation would greatly assist the management necessary to ensure these species do not become extinct within our own lifetimes. We urge all parties to support these proposals. Thank you.
Thank you. IUCN.
Thank you, Chair. This is a joint IUCN traffic intervention on both proposals 32 and 33 concerning giant guitarfishes, family Glaucostegidae, and wedgefishes, family Rhinidae. Both groups comprise low productivity coastal species characterized by slow growth, late maturity, and low fecundity, making them highly vulnerable to overexploitation. All 7 Glaucostegu species and all but 1 wedgefish species are assessed as critically endangered on the IUCN Red List, with inferred global population reductions generally exceeding 80%. These declines have been largely driven by targeted and incidental fisheries supplying international trade in their high-value fins. Given continued fishing pressure and trade demand, it is plausible that most species in these groups may now meet the biological criteria in Annex 1, Paragraph C of Resolution Conf 9.24, Rev CoP17 for consideration in Appendix 1. In this context, maintaining the current Appendix 2 listings for both families while establishing a zero export quota for wild-taken specimens traded for commercial purposes appears to be an appropriate precautionary measure. Such annotations could help ensure that international trade does not further contribute to population declines, while parties work to strengthen data collection, domestic and regional management, and enforcement and monitoring frameworks for these highly threatened taxa. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, IUCN. And last speaker is FAO.
Thank you, Chair. The FAO expert panel conducted a detailed review of Proposal 32 and found that while available information indicates that some Glaucostegus species have likely declined, there is no accurate data on population sizes or robust, species-specific trend data for most of the genus. Recent IUCN Red List assessments, on which much of the Proposal 32 is based, list all members as critically endangered, but these determinations rely on inferred, not empirical declines, and the magnitude of any population reduction remains uncertain. The expert panel noted that most international trade in giant guitarfish is in fins and skins, with mortality largely related to meat that is consumed domestically. The available data are limited and do not demonstrate a direct link between international trade and population declines. The expert panel also highlighted that the current Appendix 2 listing already requires non-detriment findings for any exports, and that only a few parties have developed such findings to date. Regarding the zero export quota annotation, the expert panel discussed that this measure would effectively place the species under trade controls analogous to Appendix 1, even if some level of legal and sustainable trade was possible. The expert panel questioned whether such an annotation is justified, given the lack of clear evidence that all or most Glaucostegus species meet the Appendix 1 criteria. The expert panel noted that improved monitoring, reporting, and development of robust, reviable NDFs would be a more effective approach to ensuring sustainability than a blanket zero quota. On the lookalike issue, the expert panel recognized that identification challenges exist between guitarfish and wedgefish in the fin trade, but found no evidence that these challenges are currently impeding enforcement or management to a degree that would justify a zero quota for the entire genus. In summary, the FAO expert panel concluded that Proposal 32 does not meet the criteria for the proposed annotation under CITES. The expert panel recommends that parties focus on strengthening, monitoring, reporting, and the development of NDFs, rather than imposing a zero export quota in the absence of robust evidence. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, FAO. So now we have heard a lot of interventions. We have 4 parties who are in opposition to this proposal. I would like to ask them if they want to go for a vote, so to be sure what the wish is of the parties opposing. I see Indonesia. Indonesia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Indonesia is appreciate the view of the parties, and we ask to vote this proposal with secret ballot. Thank you.
Thank you, Indonesia. So this is also a call for a secret ballot of this vote. To be able to have such a secret ballot, I need 10 parties seconding that motion. So parties who are in support of having a secret ballot, please press your button. Thank you. We have enough. Now, please remain on the button. Don't take yourself off yet. I have to read you out. Panama, Japan, Indonesia, Honduras, Bangladesh, Malaysia, St. Lucia, Grenada, Palau, Central African Republic, Cambodia, China, Sri Lanka, Colombia. Okay, so we will have to vote on the secret ballot. Okay, so this is a vote for Proposal 33 to add the annotation a zero. Okay, this is Proposal 32 on Glaucostegos to add the following annotation, a zero annual export quota for wild-taken specimens traded for commercial purpose to the listing in Appendix 2. So the voting type is by secret ballot. The vote of the European Union will be cast by the delegation of the EU. Since this vote is on a substantive matter, on the proposal for amendment of Appendix 1 and 2, the decision will be adopted by 2/3 majority. Yes, technicians are ready. So parties, you have now 40 seconds to cast your vote. The ballot is open now. Can you please display the results on the screen? So with 105 votes in favor of the proposal, 23 against, and 7 abstentions, proposal CoP20 Prop 32 to add the annotation a zero annual export quota for wild-taken specimens traded for commercial purposes to the Glaucostegos species listing in Appendix 2 was accepted. I have the European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you. In the spirit of transparency, we would like to note that we voted in support of the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. United States.
In the spirit of transparency, we would like to note that we voted yes.
Thank you. Mexico.
Gracias, presidente. En el espíritu de mantener la transparencia, quiero aclarar que México votó a favor. Gracias.
Thank you. And UK.
Thank you, Chair. For transparency, the UK voted yes.
Thank you. Okay, now we move to CoP20 Proposal 33 on Rhinida SPP wedgefish. The proposal is to add the following annotation: a 0 annual export quota for wild-taken specimens traded for commercial purposes to the Rhinida SPP listing in Appendix 2. The proponents were Bangladesh, Benin, Brazil, Burkina Faso, Burundi, Central African Republic, Comoros, Congo, Gabon, Gambia, Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, Maldives, Mali, Nigeria, Panama, Senegal, Sierra Leone, Sudan, and Togo. May I ask the party responsible for the presentation of the proposal to ask for the floor? I see Senegal. Senegal, you have the floor.
Monsieur le Président, je vous remercie de m'avoir donné l'honneur de présenter cette proposition. Au nom du Sénégal et des 21 autres pays co-auteurs de cette proposition, que je présente un projet d'amendement qui propose le maintien de la famille des rhinidés, les wedgefish, dans l'annexe 2, avec l'inclusion de la notation suivante: un quota zéro pour l'exportation de spécimens sauvages à des fins commerciales. En effet, 10 sur les 11 espèces de la famille des rhinidés, dont l'aire de répartition mondiale s'étend de l'océan Atlantique, Indien et Pacifique, sont en danger critique depuis 2019, malgré leur inscription à l'annexe 2. Les déclins des populations de rhinidés vont de 80% à 91% selon les zones, ce qui montre une vulnérabilité élevée de ces espèces. Ces espèces sont pêchées pour la viande, consommée au niveau généralement local, et leurs nageoires fortement commercialisées au niveau international. Les causes de leur déclin sont la pêche non réglementée et non durable, mais aussi la dégradation de leur habitat côtier. Les espèces de cette famille ont été inscrites, comme je le soulignais tout à l'heure, à l'annexe 2 à la COP18 en 2019, et cette inscription n'a pas limité leur déclin vers l'extinction. En effet, la forte valeur marchande de leur nageoire sur le marché international est une des raisons de la surpêche entraînant le déclin des populations de la famille. Des analyses des marchés d'ailerons de requins réalisées en 2022 et 2024 ont révélé que les wedgefish étaient relativement communs et qu'elles continuent d'apparaître en quantité bien supérieure à ce que laisseraient supporter les rapports contenus dans la base des données commerciales de la CITES. Cependant, une étude réalisée en 2019 a suggéré qu'une baisse de capture de ces espèces pourrait avoir comme conséquence le rétablissement rapide de ces populations, ce qui permettra de reprendre l'exploitation avec des mesures appropriées pour qu'elles puissent être durables, c'est-à-dire le fait d'enlever la notation quota zéro et permettre le commerce international. La situation de ces espèces remplit les critères d'inscription à l'annexe 1, REV 9.24, REV COP17, mais nous pensons qu'avec une suspension des transactions à des fins commerciales, grâce à la notation, un quota d'exportation nul permettra aux espèces de se rétablir évitant par conséquent leur inscription à l'annexe 1, qui peut-être serait beaucoup plus difficile de revenir en arrière si demain les populations se sont reconstituées. Nous demandons aux partis de soutenir cet amendement afin d'éviter ce qui est arrivé au poisson-ci, c'est-à-dire l'extinction de cette espèce constituerait qui est éteint, le poisson-ci, et que cette inscription avec la notation quota 0 constituerait une précaution majeure pour éviter l'extinction de ces espèces et promouvoir la conservation et la gestion durable de ces espèces. Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Senegal, for this introduction. I now open the floor to parties to provide their views. I see the Maldives. Maldives, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Maldives aligns itself with other parties co-sponsoring this proposal to add zero annual export quota for wild-taken species traded for commercial purposes. As the species continue to be caught for their high-value fin trade that drives overfishing and population decline, and given the long RST process, such critically endangered species would have gone extinct should we wait with no action. We strongly believe a pause in commercial trade through export quota will allow populations of the species to recover. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Maldives. I have Indonesia. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Indonesia holds the same position with Proposal 32 to oppose a zero quota export for Nidai SPP. Indonesia notes that introducing a zero export quota in this early stage is premature and inconsistent with the purpose of the Appendix 2. Indonesia calls instead for continued implementation of Appendix 2, strengthen monitoring, improve species identification, and enhance management measures with a review of trade and conservation outcomes after a sufficient period of implementation. Thank you.
Thank you, Indonesia. I have Cameroon.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Le Cameroun étant un pays côtier, nous sommes pleinement engagés pour la conservation de la biodiversité mondiale. La proposition 33 montre clairement que l'inscription en annexe 2 n'a pas suffi. Les populations de CRS sont toujours en danger critique et continuent de décliner. Pour cela, un quota zéro est l'option réaliste pour éviter la disparition de l'espèce. Le Cameroun encourage l'adoption de cette proposition essentielle pour la suivi des raies wedgefish. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you. I have Tanzania. Tanzania, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The United Republic of Tanzania would like to speak on behalf of the African Group and express the wish to support this proposal, noting the critically endangered status of wedgefishes on the IUCN Red List. Sharks and rays, as we all know, are experiencing severe global population declines. Establishing a zero annual export quota for wild-caught specimens traded for commercial purposes would give us and these species time to recover and help ensure their long-term sustainability, which actually lies at the core of the CITES Convention. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Tanzania. I have Mauritania.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. La Mauritanie soutient la proposition du Sénégal concernant l'inscription de raies RINIDSP dans l'annexe 2 pour une meilleure protection de cette espèce. Merci.
Thank you. Now I have the European Union.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je m'exprime au nom de l'Union européenne et de ses 27 États membres. Nous reconnaissons que le fort déclin de 11 des 12 espèces de la famille, aggravé par un âge de maturité très tardif, en moyenne 11 ans, justifie la mise en place d'un quota d'exportation zéro pour les captures en milieu naturel. En ce qui concerne la 12e espèce Rhynchobatus palpebratus, en raison de sa ressemblance avec d'autres espèces et du fort déclin de sa population en Asie, ainsi que la présence de 2 autres espèces de la même famille partageant la même aire de répartition, le quota d'exportation 0 ne peut pas être appliqué si une des 12 espèces est exclue de cette mesure de précaution. C'est pourquoi nous soutenons la mise en place d'un quota d'exportation 0 pour l'ensemble des espèces sauvages de la famille des rhinidés. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, European Union. I have Japan. Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Japan also respectfully opposes this proposal for the same reason as stated in Proposal 32. In addition, we consider that this proposal has 2 major issues. First, the proponents did not consult with range states in accordance with Resolution Conf 8.21 Leb CoP16. Section 10 of the proposal, which is consultations, is marked as pending, indicating no consultation with range states has been conducted. Second, this proposal cites Japan's fisheries statistics to indicate a stock decline in species such as R. Mononoke. However, Japan's statistics used in the proposal are not species specific. The stock decline of species like this species should not be assessed based on the aggregated statistics that combine all other shark and ray species. Noting FAO and the CITES Secretariat have also concluded that the proposal does not meet the listing criteria, Japan opposes the proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Japan. I have Fiji.
Thank you, Chair. Fiji joins others that have supported this proposal for 0 annual export quota for wild-taken specimens traded for commercial purposes. We believe that this would really support the conservation aspirations as well as support the insurance within the procedures related to Appendix 2. We fully support this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Monaco.
Monsieur le Président, cette proposition visant à contribuer au rétablissement de ces espèces, Monaco appuie l'ajout de cette annotation. Merci.
Thank you. I have Somalia.
Thank you, Jay. Somalia supports keeping the wedgefish in Appendix 2 with 0 export quota to ensure their protection. Thank you.
Thank you, Somalia. I have Canada.
Thank you, Chair. Similar to the previous proposal, Canada appreciates the concerns surrounding wedfishes. However, Canada opposes this proposal to include the annotation. Given that wedgefishes were recently included in Appendix 2, we would suggest that if concerns exist around the levels of significant trade and the sustainability of harvest, parties should consider including these species in the well-established Animals Committee review of significant trade process. This would be a welcomed next step. Thank you.
Thank you, Canada. United States.
Thank you, Chair. For the same reasons the United States and many other parties supported the previous proposal, we also support this proposal, particularly in light of the fact that the RSD process could take several years from initiation to completion. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, United States. I have Oman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Oman would like to support this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Oman. I have China.
Thank you, Chair. China agrees with the FAO and the Secretariat's assessment, which conclude that there is no sufficient evidence to support a 0 export quota. China recognizes that fish stock can be strengthened to various extent in different range. China encourages proponents of this proposal to establish a valuatory 0 export quota. Other range countries should be allowed to determine any export quota that is appropriate and proportionate according to their fishery management. China therefore opposes the proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, China. Now I give the floor to the Dominican Republic.
Sí, gracias, señor presidente. Apoyamos la propuesta.
Thank you. And the Philippines.
Thank you, Chair. The Philippines support this proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. And finally, Kazakhstan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kazakhstan supports this proposal.
Thank you. I will give the floor to two more co-proponents, then I will look how we proceed. I have the Gambia.
Thank you, Chair. As this is the first time the Gambia has taken the floor, we would like to thank the government of Uzbekistan for hosting us. The Gambia, as a co-proponent and a country that heavily depends on its fisheries, respectfully requests the support of all parties present for this proposal. Currently, our local markets are under significant pressure, facing challenges in adequately feeding such fish to the population, largely attributed to high demand in international markets. Consequently, these fishes become increasingly difficult for most local Gambians to afford, exacerbating food security concerns. Addressing this issue is crucial to ensuring sustainable fishing practices and protecting the livelihoods of our communities. We urge collective actions to support measures that balance economic interests with conservation efforts, thereby safeguarding the well-being of our population and the sustainability of our marine resources. A zero annual export quota for wild-taken specimens traded for commercial purposes is a practical measure to halt international trade, encourage species recovery, and prevent further exploitation, while more comprehensive management strategies are developed and help ensure species recovery for these species. Thank you.
And lastly, I will give the floor to Guinea. Guinea, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. La Guinée remercie le Sénégal pour son leadership et nous soutenons pleinement cette proposition. La Guinée invite toutes les parties à soutenir cette proposition. Je vous remercie.
Thank you. Having only co-proponents on the screen, I would like now that are certainly in support of this proposal. We have heard that. We have also heard large support for the proposal, but also some opposition. But before going on, I would like to open the floor for comments from IGOs and NGOs. I have FAO.
Thank you, Chair. The FAO expert panel conducted a detailed review of Proposal 33 and found, similarly to the finding of Proposal 32 on giant guitarfish, that while available information indicates that wedgefish have likely declined in some areas, there is no accurate data on population sizes or robust species-specific trend data for most of the family. Again, recent IUCN Red List assessments list most wedgefishes as critically endangered, but the process and requirements for reaching these conclusions are different to CITES listing criteria assessments. Again, most international trade in wedgefish is in fins and skins, with meat largely consumed domestically. And similarly to Proposal 32, the expert panel also highlighted that the current Appendix 2 listing requires for development of NDFs for any exports remain largely undeveloped. Noting this, the expert panel questioned whether an Appendix 1 style annotation is justified, given the lack of clear evidence that all or most wedgefish species meet the Appendix 1 criteria. The expert panel noted that improved monitoring, reporting, and the development of robust, reliable NDFs would be a more effective approach to ensuring sustainability than a blanket zero quota. In summary, the expert panel concluded that Proposal 33 does not meet the criteria for the proposed annotation under CITES. The expert panel recommends that parties focus on strengthening monitoring, reporting, and the development of NDFs rather than imposing a zero export quota in the absence of robust evidence, as it was likely to negatively impact legal and sustainable trade of a species group predominantly taken by disadvantaged coastal communities in developing countries. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, FAO. I have IWMC.
Thank you, Chair. If I'm not mistaken, one of the comments that was made was that the Appendix 1 listing for the species would not be warranted, and that consequently it was proposed to have a quota 0 for the already Appendix 2 listing. Maybe it should be reminded that in reality, a quota 0 for an Appendix 2 species is even more restrictive than an Appendix 1 listing. So therefore, we strongly support the recommendation made by Canada to the fact that maybe it could be possible to discover through the analysis of the significant trade if this species would qualify effectively for an Appendix 1 listing or not. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So it is my take we have a large majority of parties in favor of this proposal, and some parties are against. We do not have agreement, so I would like to go to the parties that are in opposition if they want to go for a vote. I have Indonesia. Indonesia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Indonesia asks to take a vote with secret ballot again. Thank you.
Thank you, Indonesia. So I would like parties who are still have pressed their button to take themselves off the list now, to clean the list before we can take parties in support of a secret ballot. Senegal and Gabon, can you please take yourselves off the list? Or no, yes, can you clean the list? Technicians, please. Okay, thank you. Now I would like to ask parties who are in favor of a secret ballot to indicate that by pressing their button. Okay, it's good, but stay on there. I have Indonesia, Honduras, Bangladesh, China, Laos, Palau, Thailand, Japan, Panama, Cambodia, St. Lucia, Trinidad and Tobago, Equatorial Guinea, Lebanon, Grenada, and Malaysia. So we have enough parties. So this is a vote for proposal 33 on Renida SPP wedgefish to add the following annotation: a 0 annual export quota for wild-taken specimen traded for commercial purposes to the Renida SPP listing in Appendix 2. If you vote yes, you are accepting this annotation to the Appendix 2 listing. If you vote no, you are against adding this annotation. The voting type is by secret ballot. The vote of the European Union will be cast by the delegation of the EU. Since this is a vote on a proposal for amendment of Appendix 1 and 2, the decision will be adopted by a 2/3 majority. Technicians are ready, so parties, you have 40 seconds to cast your vote. The ballot is open now. Can you please show the results on the screen? So with 118 votes in favor, 20 against, and 2 abstentions, proposal proposal CoP20, proposal 33 on Renidida SPP wedgefish to add the following annotation: a 0 annual export quota for wild-taken specimens traded for commercial purpose to the Renida SPP listing in Appendix 2 was accepted. Okay, now we move to the next proposal, which is proposal 34 on Centro Florida SP. Oh, yes. I forget, we have some parties who wish to make a remark. So, European Union, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Dans son souci permanent de transparence, l'Union européenne souhaite exprimer qu'elle a voté oui. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you. Now I have United States.
Thank you, Chair. In light of transparency as well, the United States voted yes on this proposal.
Thank you. United Kingdom.
Thank you, Chair. For transparency, the UK voted in support of the proposal.
Thank you. Mexico.
Gracias, Presidente. En aras de la transparencia, México informa que votamos a favor.
Thank you. Fiji.
In the spirit of transparency, Chair, Fiji voted in support of this proposal.
Thank you. Gabon.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je tiens juste, au nom des auteurs de la proposition, de faire une rectification et préciser que les auteurs et les co-auteurs ont bien consulté les états d'aire de répartition sur cette proposition. Merci.
Thank you for this clarification, Gabon. I have now Mauritania.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. La Mauritanie a voté de oui pour une raison de transparence.
Thank you, Mauritania. Now we can move to the next proposal, which is Proposal 34, Centro Florida SPP gulper sharks, to include them in Appendix 2. The proponents are Brazil, Comoros, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, European Union, Lebanon, Nigeria, Panama, Senegal, Syrian Arab Republic, and the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. I give the floor to the UK to introduce the document.
Thank you, Chair. The UK is pleased to present Proposal 34, which seeks to include the entire Centrophoridae family gulper sharks in Appendix 2. We propose two lead species, Centrophorus granulosus and Centrophorus atromarginatus, which meet criterion A and B in Annex 2A of Res Conf 9.24. All other species within the family are proposed as lookalikes under criterion A in Annex 2B. We welcome the evidence-based recommendations from the Secretariat, IUCN and Traffic that this proposal is adopted, as well as the support from our co-proponents and the constructive comments we received on the proposal during its development in response to notification 2025/066. Gulper sharks are a deep water family with conservative life history traits, late maturity, long lifespans, and very low fecundity. These characteristics make them highly vulnerable to overexploitation with little capacity for recovery. They are retained as secondary catch across their range, harvest primarily for their liver oils, which incentivize continued catch and retention. Unregulated trade of high-value liver oil has led to population declines of greater than 80% in significant parts of their range, with several species in the gulper shark family already assessed as critically endangered with extinction. There are currently no limits or controls to prevent overexploitation of these slow-growing species, which is why a CITES Appendix 2 listing is needed now more than ever. The regulation of trade is essential to prevent further declines that could otherwise lead to an Appendix 1 listing. Regarding lookalike species, gulper sharks are a taxonomically complex family, with overlapping ranges and morphological similarities that make species-level identification difficult, especially across life stages. As they are primarily harvested for liver oil rather than whole specimens, all species within the family must be listed to ensure effective implementation. There are a range of tools available and in development that can be used by customs and border officials to identify shark liver oils to varying taxonomic levels. To further support parties with implementation, we draw attention to INFDOC 32 to aid with the visual identification of the gulper shark family. Finally, we welcome the discussions we have had with other parties regarding preparation for the implementation of the listing to support the development of robust, non-detriment findings and enforcement. To assist parties with this, the UK and its co-proponents are therefore proposing an 18-month delay to entry into effect. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, UK, for the presentation of this proposal. So you amend your proposal to add an 18-month delay for implementation of this proposal. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Good. Now I open the floor to parties for any comments. I see Gabon. Gabon, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Le Gabon remercie les auteurs de la proposition d'inscription en annexe 2 des espèces du genre Centrophoridés. Mon pays prend la parole pour soutenir pleinement cette proposition visant ces requins d'eau profonde qui subissent une pression croissante du fait du commerce international de leur chair et de leur huile. Ces espèces sont particulièrement vulnérables. Croissance très lente, maturité tardive, faible productivité. Leur forte valeur commerciale combinée à une demande internationale soutenue alimente un commerce non durable qui accélère leur déclin. L'inscription en annexe 2 est l'outil le plus adapté pour encadrer ce commerce, améliorer la traçabilité et garantir que les captures ne compromettent pas la survie à l'état sauvage. Nous demandons aux parties de soutenir cette proposition. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, Gabon. I have the European Union.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je m'exprime au nom de l'Union européenne et de ses États membres. L'Union européenne est une des parties ayant soumis cette proposition numéro 34. Les requins chagrins sont soumis à de fortes pressions du fait de la surpêche. De plus, l'évidente ressemblance entre la plupart des espèces de cette famille rend l'évaluation et les mesures de contrôle particulièrement compliquées à mettre en œuvre. Par ailleurs, les méthodes de pêche utilisées pour les requins d'eau profonde n'étant pas sélectives, elles conduisent à des prises accessoires conséquentes, rendant les classements partiels difficiles à mettre en place en pratique. Nos partenaires du Royaume-Uni ont déjà présenté précisément l'état de la science et nous partageons les données communiquées. Pour toutes ces raisons, un classement de l'ensemble de la famille est essentiel afin de conduire une action claire et compréhensible pour tous. Nous souhaiterions également souligner que cette proposition est parfaitement alignée avec les objectifs internationaux sur la protection des océans, comme conclu lors de la conférence des Nations Unies sur l'océan qui s'est tenue à Nice, en France, en juin dernier. Cette échéance a permis de rappeler l'urgence de protéger les espèces marines, particulièrement vulnérables, et de renforcer les pratiques durables des pêcheries, en identifiant notamment les requins chagrins comme une famille d'espèces sur laquelle les efforts doivent porter en priorité. Aujourd'hui, nous avons l'opportunité de traduire cette ambition politique par des actions concrètes. Pour toutes ces raisons, Monsieur le Président, nous exhortons l'ensemble des parties à bien vouloir soutenir l'inclusion de toute la famille des requins chagrins en annexe 2. Cette inscription contribuera à des pratiques durables de gestion et à l'amélioration de la conservation de ces requins d'eau profonde en démontrant l'engagement commun à la fois de la CITES et des efforts plus généraux menés sur la biodiversité des océans. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, European Union. I now have Monaco.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Monaco appuie l'inscription de toutes les espèces de la famille Centrophoridae à l'annexe 2 avec l'amendement proposé pour le délai de 18 mois pour la mise en œuvre. Vous en remercions.
Thank you. Australia.
Thank you, Chair. Several Australian gulper shark stocks have experienced similar declines to those seen globally. Australia thanks the proponents for this proposal and agrees with Gabon in supporting inclusion of family Centrophoridae on CITES Appendix 2 on the basis that enhanced trade regulation is needed to halt ongoing global declines of gulper shark populations. Australia believes that the effectiveness of listing, if adopted, will likely be related to the extent to which parties consider products containing gulper shark oils in trade to be easily recognisable. Given the complexities associated with regulating trade in products containing gulper shark liver oil and its derivatives, Australia appreciates the 18-month delayed implementation to ensure effective implementation can be managed and appropriate non-detriment findings can be developed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Australia. And now have Senegal.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Le Sénégal étant co-auteur de cette proposition, la soutiennent et demande aux partis de la soutenir. Non seulement c'est une proposition pertinente du fait qu'elle nous permettra d'avoir des données, faire un suivi régulier sur le commerce international des centrophoridae, ce qui permettra de pouvoir prendre de bonnes mesures de gestion de manière durable. Merci.
Thank you. Now I have Benin.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Le Bénin soutient également cette proposition qui est reflétée à travers le consensus que nous avons eu au niveau de la région Afrique pour soutenir cette proposition. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Benin. Now I have Panama.
Gracias, señor presidente. Panamá, haciendo su intervención también por Honduras, Uruguay, Belice, Costa Rica, apoya la propuesta de incluir los gulper shark al apéndice 2. Estos son especies de agua profunda que crecen demasiado lento, con más de un 80% de descensos, aún con manejo sostenible empezando ahora mismo, se demorarán mucho tiempo para recuperarse. Tenemos que tomar acción inmediata para frenar el comercio insostenible y no regulado y apoyar esta propuesta. Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Panama. Now I would like to ask Indonesia to take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Indonesia wishes to share its views regarding proposal number 34 regarding inclusion Centrophoridae in Appendix 2. First, Indonesia notes that the proposal does not present adequate evidence of population decline to justify an Appendix 2 listing under the CITES criteria. At this stage, the available data remain incomplete and do not allow parties to make scientifically robust assessment of the species status or the impact of current utilization. Second, Indonesia emphasizes that strengthening parties' capacity in species identification is far more urgent and necessary priority. Without reliable identification tools and expertise, effective monitoring and regulation cannot be achieved, regardless of listing status. For this reason, Indonesia believes that proposal number 34 does not meet the scientific requirement of the convention. We therefore respectfully oppose this proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Indonesia. Now I have Japan.
Thank you, Chair. Japan would like to thank the proponents for preparing this proposal. However, Japan, as one of the range states of this thesis, we have to oppose this proposal for the following reasons. First, Japan believes that this listing proposal should be carefully considered taking into socio-economic factors into account. Gulper sharks are caught only by small-scale gulper shark fisheries in a few local areas of Japan for their meat and squalene-rich liver oil. Liver oil from gulper sharks is used not only in cosmetics or supplements, but also as an additive of medicines. Therefore, adopting this proposal would have considerable negative implications for wider stakeholders. It will negatively impact not only small-scale fishers and cosmetic industries, but also the pharmaceutical industry and people who use medicine derived from the liver oil. This could pose a significant threat to the local economy, livelihoods, and development of sustainable fisheries. Second, FAO as expert advisory panel has concluded that this proposal doesn't meet CITES listing criteria due to insufficient data evidence. Furthermore, I would like to note that the conservation and management measures of regional fisheries management organizations have been strengthened. For example, at the 12th meeting of the parties of COFA, it was agreed that bottom longline fisheries are prohibited in certain convention areas. Thirdly, we recognize that this proposal abuses the look-alike criteria. If adopted, it could set a precedent which imposes unnecessary trade restrictions on well-managed, commercially exploited aquatic species with healthy stock status. That's why we have to oppose this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Japan. The UAE, please.
Thank you, Chair. The UAE would like to support the inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you. Kazakhstan, please.
Thank you, Chair. Kazakhstan thanks the proponents of Proposal 34 for submitting this proposal and for the detailed information provided. Kazakhstan may be a landlocked country without direct access to the sea, but we are convinced that the conservation of marine species is a shared global responsibility. So the health of the oceans and survival of species such as these sharks affect the balance of our ecosystems far beyond their immediate range. For these reasons, Kazakhstan supports Proposal 34 and encourages other parties to do likewise. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Kazakhstan. I have Somalia.
Thank you, Chair. Based on the declining all these species, Somalia supports this proposal to list both species in Annex 2 to ensure their protection and sustainable management. Thank you.
Thank you, Somalia. The Syrian Arab Republic.
Thank you, Chair. Syrian Arab Republic support for inclusion draft shark in the Appendix 2 of the CITES Convention in line with the Convention objective for conservation marine species. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I have Kyrgyzstan.
Мы поддерживаем предложение Японии.
Thank you. I think we have heard enough in the room, so I think we have a strong support for the inclusion of this family into Appendix 2 so far. So with this, I would like to ask parties to take themselves off the list, and I will ask IGOs and NGOs to take the floor if they wish to do so. I have IUCN.
Thank you, Chair. This is a joint IUCN traffic intervention. The two lead gulper shark species are low productivity, deep water species heavily affected by exploitation. Scientific data indicates significant population declines for these species, driven by fishing for the international trade of high-value liver oil. The extent of these declines meet the criteria for inclusion in Appendix 2. Oil, meat, and fin products of the family in trade cannot be reliably identified to the species level by visual inspection, supporting the need to include all members of the family. Because these gulper shark species are traded together, it creates a substantial look-alike challenges that justify including all members of the family under Annex 2B to prevent laundering of listed species as non-listed species. In international trade, gulper shark high-value liver oil is not mixed with lower-value oils from other shark species. Similar to other premium marine commodities like shark fins or sea cucumbers, trade systems maintain a clear distinction between products based on quality and value. This separation at both the landing point and in international markets will assist enforcement and verification. If the family were listed, there are tools available to identify gulper shark liver oil and products across the supply chain. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, IUCN. I still have Fiji. Did you want to say something particular, Fiji?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we did. Fiji, while in support of this proposal, as well as the amendment for 18-month delayed implementation, we wish to just share our national experience on this regard. Approximately 2 months ago, Fiji concluded its nationwide major expedition with the National Geography Pristine Seas between April to September 2025, where we studied deep sea across our country, which, for the record, Fiji has one of the largest EEZs in the Pacific. And during this expedition, our deepwater camera deployments returned very low sightings of gulper sharks, a species that was more common sighting in our previous survey. Just in 2023, we did another nationwide expedition where we had much more of this sighting. And so while this is not a formal stock assessment, it does align with the global pattern of depletion outlined in this proposal and reinforces the concerns raised by the proponents. And we also wanted to put on the record that for a species group such as with such limited biological resilience and low encounter rates, there are warning signals that must be taken seriously. For Pacific seeds with deep water habitats, we have limited capacity to distinguish individual gulper species at landing and in trade. And therefore, we recognize the practical value of a family-wide Appendix 2 listing for enforcement to close the loopholes to allow for products from the most threatened species to continue entering international markets. For this reason, we wanted to come in and share this national experience and lend our support to this proposal and urge all parties to do the same. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Fiji. I now have Shark Advocates International.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to take the floor on behalf of Shark Advocates International and 16 other NGOs to express strong support for this proposal. We stress that deepwater gulper sharks are among the least productive and most threatened of all sharks. Overfishing, driven by international demand for high-value liver oil, has led to serious and rapid population declines, especially for the 2 lead species in the proposal. We note that the status of deepwater sharks has deteriorated over the 2 decades since the Animals Committee began highlighting their extinction risk. 3/4 of gulper shark species are now classified by IUCN as threatened. Nevertheless, gulper shark fisheries remain largely unregulated with no examples of sustainability. An Appendix 2 listing can prompt the science-based limits on exploitation that are needed to prevent further depletion of these exceptionally slow-growing sharks. We urge parties to support this well-founded proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Shark Advocates International. FAO.
Thank you, Chair. The FAO expert panel conducted a detailed review of Proposal 34, which seeks to include the dwarf gulper shark, Centrophorus atromarginatus, and gulper shark, Centrophorus granulosus, in Appendix 2, along with another 14 species under the look-alike provision. The expert panel recognized that gulper sharks are low productivity species, making them inherently vulnerable to overexploitation, but also that these globally distributed species gain some level of surrogate protection due to their life habit of living at great depth, which makes fishing at declining catch rates rapidly uneconomic. There is evidence of historical declines and localized depletion, particularly due to targeted fisheries for shark liver oil in the past. However, the expert panel found that species-specific time series data are too limited to provide robust estimates of population size or to determine whether the CITES decline thresholds for Appendix 2 are met for this globally distributed family. The expert panel highlighted that trade statistics are the least reliable indicator of population status, as they are affected by market dynamics and product composition. The expert panel noted that most targeted fisheries for Centrophoridae have ceased, and current international trade in shark liver oil and other products is very limited. Available trade data are not species-specific, and there are no reliable estimates of the volume of Centrophoridae products in trade, and that taxonomic information on the source of these commodities is difficult to follow along the value chain. The expert panel acknowledged that a CITES listing could have some conservation benefits, such as improving data collection and awareness, but also warned of potential negative consequences, including increased compliance burdens, possible shifts in fishing pressure to non-listed species, and challenges for scientific research and sample sharing. In summary, the FAO expert panel concluded that Proposal 34 does not meet the criteria for Appendix 2 at this time, due to insufficient evidence of population decline and limited trade information. The expert panel recommends that parties focus on improving monitoring data collection and management capacity for Centrophoridae, rather than imposing broad trade controls across globally distributed stocks that will be difficult to implement, especially in the absence of robust evidence of biological declines.
Can you conclude, please? We have already passed the 2 minutes.
Thank you. Concluded. Thank you.
Thank you. IWMC.
Thank you, Chair. In the proposal in paragraph 4.2, I read the following, quote, "There is no information on population size of the two species or any of the gulper sharks," end of quotation. I'm wondering, Chair, if it's possible for the proponent to explain for non-scientific people such as myself how it is possible to talk about rapid or significant decline in population if we don't know what that population is. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, IWMC. So with this, we have a large support for this proposal. We have 3 parties in opposition, so I would like to go back to them if they want to block consensus. I see Japan. Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We would like to ask for voting with secret ballot. Thank you.
Thank you, Japan. So Japan has made a motion that this vote will be in secret ballot. This means I ask 10 parties to second this motion. So if you are in agreement with a secret ballot, please press your button now. Do we have the 2, 4, 6, 8? Okay, please leave your buttons on. So we have Zambia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Iceland, Panama, Malawi, Laos, Palau, Sri Lanka, St. Lucia, Grenada, and Togo. So this is a vote to include, this is a vote on Proposal 34 to include the family Centrophoridae SPP gulper sharks in Appendix 2, and with an 18-month delay for implementation. The voting type is by secret ballot. the vote of the European Union will be cast by the delegation of the EU. Since this is a vote on the proposal for amendment of Appendix 1 or 2, the decision will be adopted by a 2/3 majority. Are we ready, technicians? Okay. So, parties, you have now 40 seconds to cast your vote. The ballot is open now. Can you please show the results on the screen? So with 113 votes in favor of the proposal, 19 against, and 6 abstentions, proposal CoP20, Prop 34, to include Centrophorida SPP gulper sharks in Appendix 2 was accepted. Thank you. Now I open the floor to the United States.
Thank you, Chair. In light of transparency, the United States would like to say that its vote was cast as yes. Thank you.
European Union.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Dans un souci de transparence, l'Union européenne souhaite indiquer qu'elle a voté en faveur de cette proposition.
Mexico.
Gracias, señor presidente. En aras de la transparencia, México informa que votó a favor de la propuesta. Gracias.
Colombia.
Gracias, señor presidente. En aras de la transparencia, Colombia informa que votó positivo a esta propuesta. Gracias.
So I would like to open the next document. We will probably not finish it, but I would like to start discussions. Oh, I see Mauritania. You have to ask for the floor.
Oui, merci, Monsieur le Président. On voulait juste joindre notre parole, en tout cas, à ceux qui ont dit oui pour des raisons de transparence, évidemment.
Merci. So we are now turning our attention to COP20 Doc 88.1 on sharks and rays, Elasmo branchii SPP. So the Conference of the Parties is asked to do quite some various things. So first, adopt the proposed amendments to Annex 3 to Resolution Conf 18.7, Ref COP19 on legal acquisition findings contained in Annex 1 to the present document. B, adopt draft decision on sharks and rays contained in Annex 2 to the present document. Adopt the draft decisions on the feasibility of an adapted RSD process for sharks and rays contained in Annex 3 to the present document. Adopt the draft decisions on hosting the ENDF tool on the CITES website contained in Annex 4 to the present document, and to delete decisions 19-222 to 19-227. So I would like to proceed by going along the line of these different things we have to adopt. So I would open first the floor for comments on recommendation A, which is to adopt the proposed amendments to Annex 3 to Resolution Conf 18.7, Ref COP19 on legal acquisition findings contained in Annex 1 to the present document. And note that there is an overlapping amendment to question 3 of Annex 3 to Resolution Conf 18.7 on what laws and regulations apply to the legality of the specimen in this document and in document CoP20 Doc 949. The amendments in CoP20 Doc 49 on LAF was agreed already in Committee 2. Just take note of that particular issue. So I open now the floor for comments in relation to A, on the amendments on the resolution that are contained in Annex 3. Okay, just also, I wasn't aware, but the standing committee also referred the catch location document SC 79 Doc 9 to discussion under this item. So you will also have to look at this one. But now we are back to the resolution. I have New Zealand who has asked for the floor.
Thank you, Chair. New Zealand supports the proposed changes contained in Annex 1 relating to Annex 3 of the resolution ResConf 18.7, RevCop 19 on legal acquisition findings. We especially support the proposed amendments in Section 5 that clarify the roles and responsibilities of states landing catches made in areas beyond national jurisdiction that land them in ports of a different state, and also clarifies the situation where specimens are obtained by an external fishing state from an area within the national jurisdiction of a coastal state and then landed in a port of a third state. So it's all a bit complicated, but we believe that the proposed changes do clarify that. We also agree with the proposed text in Annex 1 of this document for the additional text in Annex 3, particularly referring to page 13, there are paragraph 5 points Roman 5 and Roman 6, that these call for the identification of whether states involved have obligations as members or participants of RFMOs or other treaties, conventions, or agreements. We propose that there's a footnote 6 to, I think, Little Roman 6, to expand that to also include, after the words as applicable, reference to the Convention on the Conservation of Migratory Species, or CMS, whose parties have very distinct obligations for species that are of shark species that are listed on Appendix 1, or in fact any species, but we're talking sharks here. And so that would be in addition to the already given example about the port state measures. We also finally support that the 11 draft decisions in Annexes 2, 3, and 4, and deletion of the 6 decisions 19.222 through to 19.227. Thank you.
Thank you, New Zealand. We will come back to them. We are now only looking at the resolution. I have the United States of America.
Thank you, Chair. Consistent implementation of CITES listed marine species, including sharks and rays, remains an important issue to the United States. We actively engage in the intersessional working group on sharks and rays, and we strongly support the clarification and the rapid guide of making legal acquisition findings, as we believe the guidance will be beneficial to all parties. Therefore, the United States strongly supports the recommendations in A regarding amendments to the rapid guide and resolution. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, United States. I have Tanzania.
Thank you, Chair. The United Republic of Tanzania also would like to support the draft, the revisions of the amendment to the resolution CONF 18.7, and allow me also to, so that I don't take back the stage at a later stage, to also support the proposed decisions for the RST and on hosting the ENDF on the CITES website. And of course, the deletion of the implementation decisions 19.222 and 19.227. Thank you.
Thank you. United Kingdom.
Thank you, Chair. As you noted, this document is a bit of a beast, but we think this is testament to the tremendous efforts of the Sharks and Rays Working Group. The uplisting proposals we've seen at COP20 would seem to suggest that CITES is not working as effectively as it could for sharks and rays, and that there is still much more to do to ensure that trade is sustainable, particularly with regards to making NDFs and LAFs for specimens taken in ABNJ, improving the implementation of IFS, and encouraging meaningful and embedded collaboration with fisheries bodies. Taken together, we believe the draft decisions and proposed amendments in this document present a valuable package of work to address these issues and to encourage improved implementation of the Convention for CITES-listed sharks and rays. On recommendation A specifically, the UK supports the Secretariat's recommendation to adopt the proposed amendments to Annex 3 to ResConf 18.7 on legal acquisition findings, except for the explanation related to question 3. We agree that this is superseded by the clearer and more concise amendments that have been proposed in COP20 document 49 on legal acquisition findings. Thank you.
Thank you. Australia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, we thank the Secretariat for identifying that COP Docs 49 and 88.1 had conflicting suggested changes for Annex 3 to Resolution Conf 18.7 RevCop 19 on legal acquisition findings. We note that yesterday Committee 2 agreed to the amendments included in COP20 Doc 49 on legal acquisition findings. However, we have a strong preference for the changes included in Annex 1 of the current document. These changes are more substantive. However, we feel that they will be of greater benefit to stakeholders who may not have the time or understanding of CITES documents to find the relevant information contained in other CITES documentation. We therefore support the adoption of the proposed changes contained in Annex 1 of the current document. And we would also like to thank the Chair of the Sharks and Rays Working Group for his excellent leadership for many years. We could not have made so much progress without him, and he will be greatly missed. Thank you.
Thank you. May I ask the interpreters if we may have some more minutes? Okay, thank you very much. So I have Japan.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, Japan has some suggestions on Annex 1 of this document, more specifically page 12, third paragraph. Japan has some suggestions. Regarding a specimen taken from area within national jurisdiction of a coastal state and landed in a different state, Japan has concern about the proposed definition of the exporting state, which is described in the third paragraph on page 12 of this document. In the third paragraph on page 12, it is proposed to assume that coastal state is the exporting state in any case. However, within the World Trade Organization, this issue was discussed, and there is no consensus on the treatment of the product which is taken from area within national jurisdiction of a coastal state. Furthermore, CITES Convention Article 14.2 stipulates that CITES does not override any international agreement related to trade, possession, or transport of products, including customs. In light of CITES Convention's basic principle, and in order to avoid possible future inconsistency between CITES and other international agreements, Japan would like to insert the following sentence at the end of the paragraph 3 on page 12. I'll read the suggested inserting sentence. In case where there is a bilateral agreement, the coastal state may consign the implementation of the provisions of Article 3, 4, and 5 to the flag state of the vessel. I'll repeat the sentence. In case where there is a bilateral agreement, the coastal state may consign the implementation of the provision of Article 3, 4, and 5 to the flag state of the vessel. Thank you.
Japan, may I ask you to read it once more, but slowly, please?
Yes, thank you. Sorry. In case where there is a bilateral agreement, the coastal state may consign the implementation of the Articles 3, 4, and 5 to the flag state of the vessel.
Thank you, Japan. United States?
Thank you, Chair. There was considerable discussion regarding the language of coastal state in both the intersessional working groups for sharks and rays and at SC 78, and there was overwhelming agreement to have it as it is presented in this document. Therefore, the United States strongly opposes the proposed amendment from Japan. Thank you.
Thank you. Maldives?
Thank you, Chair. We appreciate this document and the decisions contained therein. We also support the inclusion of the electronic NDF tool on the CITES website, and we have found it extremely useful. In Annex 3, we also encourage that the RST process focuses on sharks and rays at stock level rather than the country-species combinations, as most species have wide-ranging populations that several parties harvest. We support the statement by New Zealand on their proposed amendments to Annex 3 to Resolution CONF 18.7 on legal acquisition findings contained in Annex 1 to the present document on page 13. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. New Zealand?
Yes, thank you, Chair. New Zealand would like to echo the comments of the United States. This was discussed at considerable length, and the example that came to mind at that meeting was that if a flag state was fishing in the area of a coastal state and landing that catch back in their own ports, then CITES provisions wouldn't apply to that catch, which doesn't make sense from a CITES perspective at all. So it seems to be always the responsibility of the coastal state to issue legal acquisition findings and non-detriment findings, but certainly I'm sure that coastal states would welcome the input from the flag states in the development of both of legal acquisition findings and especially the non-detriment findings. But when the catch is being landed back in the port of the flag state, then that would then somehow constitute no legal international trade, which doesn't seem to make sense. Thank you.
UK?
Thank you, Chair, and apologies for taking the mic again, but just to quickly thank Japan for their suggested amendments. We would, however, echo the comments of the US and also thank New Zealand for the clear explanatory example.
Thank you. European Union?
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. Hablo en nombre de la Unión Europea y de sus Estados miembros, que agradecen al Comité Permanente su trabajo en este documento. Apoyamos estas nuevas decisiones y la eliminación de las que ya se han implementado y apoyamos los comentarios de Estados Unidos, así como lo comentado por Nueva Zelanda, también en relación con la Convención sobre la conservación de las especies migratorias. Gracias.
Thank you. Republic of Korea?
Thank you, Chair. Republic of Korea suggestion Japanese support Japanese suggestion.
Thank you. And as the last party, I will ask Fiji to take the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Very briefly, we echo our support to the intervention that was made earlier by the United States, and we're in support of the interventions that was also made earlier by New Zealand. Thank you.
So thank you all. We do not have agreement yet to adopt the changes in the resolution, I think. So we will have to come back to this in the afternoon. So with this, I adjourn the debate until 2 o'clock. So have a good lunch, and thank you to the interpreters.
I have some housekeeping.
Yes, we have some housekeeping announcements to make, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks to the interpreters for their indulgence. Important announcement for Baeza Master's Course students and lecturers. There will be a group photo taken today now as we conclude here in Committee 1. So those students and lecturers of the Baeza Master's Course on CITES, please remain behind for the group photo. Thank you.